What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Season Gaming Bitcast, episode 266. I am your host, Ainsley Bowden, joined by the, I don't know what word I was going to say there, but the awesome Tie Guy Travis and Mr. Hoeglaw. Agent 48 is off on a mission this week, so he will not be with us. But the three of us are going to hold it down for you. We got a lot to talk about. Gentlemen.
48. That photo felt like you were going to say illustrious, but just couldn't do it.
Illustrious, yeah. That's
he was going to say illustrious, and then he was like, "That's too nice." And
yeah,
right.
That doesn't start the show in the way we need it to start. You know what I mean?
I have to say, Dan does not look like Agent 48 in that photo. that looks like a news photo of the guy from Reddit who shot some people for sure. That's
it's probably both. It's probably both.
Reddit user Agent 48 was last seen in front of the Kmart with a rifle. Any information?
Oh my god, too true. Guys, how we doing?
Doing good. Looking forward to talking games this morning, Ains.
Games, yeah. I'm feeling a little out of it, so if I start to stumble over words, just jump in. But yeah, Dan's out this week. We do have a lot to talk about, actually. But I want to celebrate something, guys. In case you didn't know, everyone watching, this is Hogue's final week of rehabilitation.
Oh, that is true. I don't think I've publicly talked about that very much.
I'm very sorry. In case you didn't want to talk about that,
outed you.
Not at all.
I did. I outed you. I thought it was something to celebrate, so I was happy for you.
Yes. Well, we're going to be taking a break from rehabilitation at least. So this is the final week for a while, probably a couple months at least, and that's something exciting to celebrate. Certainly.
Yeah, for sure.
If we're up to me, I'd be like, this guy is not rehabilitated. Have you seen his game takes? There's gotta be more.
I'd be committed for the next 6 months.
Yeah,
this is true.
There's more we can do for this man, surely.
But anyway, I wanted to celebrate that. Sorry, Hogue, if you didn't want to talk about it, I apologize.
No,
but it's good news. It's good news. Yeah, we're going to be talking today. So I told you I'm going to be stumbling over words. I reviewed Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty. We're going to talk about that. We've got other games to talk about. Of course, we have a huge Xbox leak. We're going to talk about some of that stuff because there's an awful lot there. We've got the CMA update on Xbox Activision-Blizzard. We've got TGS, Tokyo Game Show, and then we're also going to talk about the three of our favorite 25 games of all time. Travis actually put a list together. He did it. I'm
expecting a 10-minute disclaimer before we are allowed to read it.
Yeah, probably. As you guys know, it's not an easy thing for me, but I commit to nothing. Who knows? The list may change in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, I was the same way. I was like, you could move games in and out of that all day long. But before we do that, we got a couple super chats to get to. Sorry for the frame. It's going to look a little weird as we do super chats today, I think, but we'll deal with it as we go. So Googleman in the house with the €5. Apple TV has the complete Batman animated series from the 90s for $30. Seems like a steal as it's considered a classic. Very true. Ben and Jerry's Fish Food. I have not had Ben and Jerry's Fish Food. Yes, I haven't had it, though. Is it any good? Who knows?
I imagine Googleman is taking a 90s theme through that comment there.
Talking about fish, probably. Yeah.
Apple TV
but yeah, Batman animated, you said seems like a steal as it's considered a classic, indicating to me that you haven't seen it yet. It is 100% a classic. Even if you don't love Batman, Batman the Animated Series is great.
It's very good.
Fantastic.
I grew up on it.
Yeah, you were like 4.
I was. I was watching it.
That ain't right.
It's age appropriate. Age appropriate for that show, for sure.
Yeah,
the darkest afternoon cartoon there was.
And I was the darkest 4-year-old there was. I was ready for it.
Oh man, appreciate you, Googleman. It's always getting us started here. My brother Bomber in the house with a $10 super chat. You better watch out for my gorilla hands. We're gonna get to it. Don't worry. Also, Cyberpunk is gorgeous. Yes. Rocket League is a great game. Also, yes. Forza going to be balling 3 times. Yes. And maybe Diablo 4 is worth going back to for season 2. Halo for the
never stopped, man. Never stopped.
Hogue is still Diablo-ing like every day. Every day.
I play a lot of Diablo 4.
It's awesome.
It's a good
game.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's some great games in your list there, Bomber. Appreciate you. He also added an extra $2 saying, "Oh yeah, Party Animals is a damn good time." Very true. I'm going to be talking about Party Animals here very shortly. Bomber.
I do have some. I have a problem with him saying Forza is ballin' and not Rocket League is ballin'. Seems like he got reversed. Actually,
Fair.
ball in Rocket League. You know?
Yeah, a missed pun opportunity there for sure. But
we don't know that there isn't some kind of ball in Forza. I haven't played it. Have you, Travis?
I have not, but I could guess pretty hard that there's no.
And Forza Horizon there is, but not
Forza Horizon. Almost
Forza Motorsport Rocket League Edition.
That would be unhinged. Yeah, no, it wouldn't. A realistic racer with a sim game in it? That's crazy. Put that in Horizon where it belongs, sir.
No doubt. Okay. No doubt. Bomber, thanks, brother. Appreciate you. A couple member comments. Shoosh, petition to rename the channel to Season Chunks.
Hell yeah. Starfield.
Chunks. Best fast food in the verse.
No doubt. No doubt. Shoosh. Vintage Willow. Yay. This was in response to the comment about you, Hogue. Very happy for you. And shout out, as always, Vintage Willow. Super generous. I say this every week. She just gifted 10 memberships over on the Season Gaming side. So thank you for that. Because it's awesome.
Real talk, though, Ains. If Chunks became a real company, Bethesda decided to get into the snack business. And they were like, we're going to make Chunks a reality. And they offered to sponsor Bitcast. Would you take the sponsorship? So we would all have to rebrand and maybe do like a segment called like,
Season Hunks,
Chunks, season Chunks or something like that, and everybody, I don't know, tells us.
Am I the only one that like deep dives into world building in my head and goes, "What in the world was happening in this universe that Chunks was the appropriate branding for food?"
Yeah,
my guess is
food had become a kind of amorphous goo, and so the cubes were actually an improvement.
I thought about this. I think it's because of like space food.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you've ever been to like the museum and you get those little bags of space food.
I get space ice cream every single time, Travis. You know.
Hell yeah, baby. Yeah. So I was thinking it was probably something like that. Like maybe they didn't have gravity on ships at first. And so they had to they had to digest everything as like a solid chunk so it wouldn't go into space. I don't know. I was thinking about that. Like they probably just looked at NASA food and were like, what if that was a future brand?
Yeah, no, and one of my favorite bits of the world building in Starfield is like all of these adult beverages are in juice boxes. So it's like white wine juice box, beer, whatever it might be. It's ridiculous. But
it's Capri Sun is now the largest corporation in the future. They own everything. That patented pouch, they got. Some of those sound delicious, by the way. Some of the chunks, like obviously a Chunks cheeseburger, like it looks like a slider, like that basically already exists. They just made it square. But then some of them, I'm like, Chunks wine.
Some of them are horrible sounding.
Yeah, I don't want to eat it.
Chunks.
Did you see the person? I don't know who it was, but someone recreated them all in real life, like actually made them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I saw it on Twitter. I don't know who that was, but
I'm into
probably.
Yeah.
Let's see. Don Lionheart in the house, $5 super chat. Good morning, all. Still playing Baldur's Gate 3 here. Barely any Starfield time, sadly. Someday I'll get to Cyberpunk. Congrats, Hogue, on rehab graduation. There you go. Good to hear from you, Don.
Did I tell you guys I beat Starfield finally?
Like the main story?
Yeah, like basically everything I intend to play. I finished it. 270 hours. I was like, all right, I'm good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
When they take away all your stuff for New Game Plus, it's like, man, how much do I really want to do this again?
I've seen people raving about the New Game Plus. Obviously, I'm not there, so I don't know exactly.
It's set up cool, but they do. I expected them to at least keep like my starship or maybe some of my money, and they took away.
It's like you keep your skills and nothing else, right? Something like that.
Yeah, your skills. That's it. And then they send you on your way, and you're like, "Damn, I got nothing again. This sucks." So. But it's cool. If I were recommending it to anybody, I think I did it the opposite way. I would just say like, you should beeline the main story, finish it, get to New Game Plus, and then do like your real playthrough where you do all the side stuff and all that. Because otherwise, you sort of are doing a lot of that for. Like, there's no reason to do like all of the faction quests before New Game Plus because they take all that.
Yeah, gotcha.
Levels, I guess. So.
Don also says, Travis, Avatar game talk today. Very curious.
What kind of face is that? The Avatar game looks cool.
It does look cool. It's Far Cry Avatar.
He's talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Is there an Avatar: The Last Airbender game? Like
there is. It is out already.
A while ago.
It was made by the company. Well, it's starting again. I don't know if you know this. There's a new
No,
season.
I don't.
Yeah, and that the game is made by Game Mill, the same people that published Nerf Legends, and it is predictably shovelware. Essentially, it's just a $50 game that seems like it took a couple hours to make, and it does not. It's not good. Shouldn't play it. Yeah, so I'm happy to talk about it. I did play that game for a couple hours. Tom is doing the review. Obviously, we did not get advanced copies. Nobody did for obvious reasons. But yeah,
you're not doing the review.
I know. I can't either. Actually, I was the backup for this. This is Tom's first review since he became a father, and so they're giving him one that they were like, "Yeah, this probably won't take too long. It's like probably a couple-hour game." And so I was the backup. I was the bench in case he couldn't do it. Which is why I've been playing it a little bit. So it doesn't sound like I'm going to have to be the person to write the review, but I was ready to be the guy to have to write the review, and it's pretty bad so far.
What are they?
You got to be careful with these names, though, because I'm looking forward to Frontiers of Pandora.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Maybe that's what we'll call it.
I'm pretty sure Don is talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender. Basically, like the game it retells the original show, each of the chapters, or books, I guess they're called, and it does a really bad job of like retelling the story. Like it'll like skip over the whole part where like Ains people get genocided with like a slideshow cutscene, and then like do an extensive part where you're riding that giant fish. Like, oh, that episode where he's on a giant fish. Yeah, we'll just do.
I don't know anything about it.
Little racing mini game with that, and then you spend an awful lot of your bending time pushing boxes, which everybody knows is the fantasy when it comes to Avatar: Last Airbender, is that you want to airbend boxes.
Box bender.
Yeah, box bending. Yeah, it's a very odd, kind of poorly conceived game. So it's also got one of those bugs where you can buy like a common item from vendors and then sell it back to them for 3 times the price so that you can make infinite money. You can do that at any point in the game, which is
fair.
Yeah.
I guess the big question I wanted to ask you, though, is what is IGN going to do for backup when you become a father?
Never. I refuse.
Oh,
man. All right, moving on. Oh, Don followed up one more time, $2. Girlfriend and I are huge Last Airbender fans. Very sad to hear.
Yep. It is. I'm also a huge Last Airbender fan. And I kind of saw the trailer and I was like, it doesn't look great. The publisher sort of has a bad reputation. It's just one of those things. I think they're snapping up the IP, making a quick and dirty game to try to
quick buck
sell it to kids and their parents who don't know any better.
Yep. Don, thank you very much. Appreciate the support as always. Tao in the house with the $5 super chat. Sup, Bitcasters. New game added to the stream list. Party Animals. Got to see who catches those paws. Yes,
so
we're going to be talking about it. It's so fun. We will talk about that here shortly, Tao. But yeah, we got to figure out a way to do that for sure. We got to. Tao, thank you so much. And Nissa says, did Tide make an AI picture today? Did they ever?
Good reminder.
Yes. Our Cyberpunk versions are here. Here we go. I look like I've seen Hell and Back for years. Travis
you look
is
like that in real life.
I mean, this is pretty much me.
How different is this from you? Yeah. The only difference to you is I imagine that this version of Ains has like a really dirty British accent. Like he's just like low
northern. Very north. Yeah.
I feel like Dan Cyberware is trying to give him hair.
Yeah. Dan is just doing the Cyberpunk equivalent to regenerate his hair growth. I'm a dork on a headset. What are they called in Cyberpunk? The
net runners.
Net runners.
Yeah. And Hogue just looks cool. Ains and Hogue just look cool.
I got a little too much product in my hair, but mine is good.
I mean, you're in the cyberpunk world. It's all about fashion there. So you got to do what you got to do. I will say you have the probably the lowest tech. I don't know why you're wearing a wired headset in cyberpunk. That seems really, It looks like it actually is double wired, which is like worse. It's like a major step back.
He's got the Astro A50s in like 2050.
No, dude, those are like the A40s. There's 2 cords. Why are there so many cords involved?
One cord for each ear.
Yeah, very bizarre.
Oh my
Travis is
god.
looking real corpo. Yeah, he always does.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty
I
standard.
would obviously I'd be a corpo in the Cyberpunk universe, so this checks out. Why do I look like a child in each of these? I could not tell you. I very much
You
look
know why. You know why.
Also, really, in the future, I have to wear seeing eyeglasses. Crazy, because at least they turn Hogues into like cool. They look like they're maybe holographic. You know,
I think I just have
Like,
reflections of a computer screen in mine.
I mean, that's a weird ass computer screen you're looking at. I must say, it's like orange and neon, but I won't judge. Yeah, I just look like a sickly child. They haven't figured out.
Yeah, I mean, mine's pretty much me now. You know,
Basically,
it's pretty
I mean,
accurate. So
you got a better smolder on this photo. You need to work.
by the way, my headset is. I only just realized like it's 2 parts. It's not connected at the top. Apparently, it sits on my head magnetically.
Wow.
The magic of AI.
AI does not understand how things look. It's
Those are great, Tide. Those are great.
Yeah, it's Tide. You're awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you
as
so
always, your AI images are horrifying and cool.
much. All right. So let's get to some games, guys. Let's start because we had a couple super chats. Let's start with Party Animals. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Party Animals is a new kind of family friendly, if you will, kind of take on animals / almost Fall Guys at times. It's like this goofy game where you pick different animals in different mini games. It's 8 players. You can play, with friends. You can play online and matchmaking. And we played it last night. Me and a couple of the guys played last night, a couple custom games. And then we also went into matchmaking as a team. A lot of the games are 4-on-4. A lot of the games are 4 teams of 2. So, it kind of mixes people up. But I'll tell you what, I have not laughed that hard in a very long time. Like, me and the other guys were literally in tears to where we couldn't talk to one another because we couldn't breathe. We were laughing so hard. It is just extremely, extremely comical. I highly recommend it for anyone out there who just wants to have a laugh, especially if you have a family. Play it with your kids. Play it with your friends. It is great. It is really great. I hope it's already kind of got this free battle pass. You don't have to pay for anything. You earn kind of free credits in the game. You unlock costumes and new animals. It's got all sorts of animals you can be. It's really kind of well implemented for initial launch. And
can my daughter be a turtle? Do they have a turtle?
Ooh.
I haven't seen a turtle. I have quite a few of the characters now because I was grinding it a little bit with my fiance. I've got I'm trying to think of some of the ones. There's a gorilla. There's a alligator.
There's all the obvious ones.
My
There's
favorite's a cow. I really like the way the cow
Cow's
looks.
cool. I got a gangster walrus. That's what I'm using right now.
I haven't played this game. I know it's on Game Pass, but can you tell me what is the game?
I got you. It is Mario Party meets QWOP. It is a physics based like brawler game where it'll, for example, be like, hey, everybody's on top of an airplane and you have to push each other off, but the main obstacle to doing that is the controls are intentionally like bad because they're physics based, and so you have a hard time like getting your gelatinous creature with all of the bone structure of one of those air guys in front of a car dealership. Those things. Those noodle people.
It's not as crazy as QWOP, right? Like you can move around, you can jump, you can grab, you can punch and stuff. But it is to Travis's point, it is purposely kind of goofy, right?
Yeah.
And what's really funny about it is a lot of the games rely on you knocking out the other animals, right? So that you either have an advantage to throw them off the whatever you're on, or to be able to like it's got soccer and hockey and football, right? So if you're knocking out the other guys, obviously they can't play defense. And it's just, it's comical, man.
Yeah. And then they have like mini games in there like soccer and hockey and stuff like that, where you have to also use your animals to push people across the field. We did like a football game once. There's just a bunch of like dumb, weird mini games where the main obstacle is controlling your creature is very hard. Some people are good at it though.
Yeah, there's some people that are really good.
Pull off some crazy maneuvers, and I was just like, "Geez, man, I wish I could be that good with my floppy cow." This guy's not.
I'm trying to remember. You asked about turtle. I mean, there's like hammerhead shark variations.
I don't think there's a turtle.
There's bunnies, and
I'm only missing 2: the bat and I can't remember what, but I haven't seen a turtle.
Yeah, I don't
Well, it's
remember.
fun that there's a pass. I feel like I'm earning too much stuff across many games now, right? Diablo and Motorfest and Mortal Kombat and too many live services, people. But I understand why they do it.
Yeah, and you can buy money, but the cool thing in this game is not only is the leveling up where you unlock the stuff free, but you get like little dog bones as you play the game, right? And you can actually transfer those to the real money currency as well. Nice. So basically, you can unlock everything in the game theoretically just by playing the game without spending any money. And there's a lot of the stuff like
those passes. I need the theoretical possibility of earning my way into the stuff.
Yeah, it's actually set up pretty well. And we played, I want to say we played at least like 7 to 8 to 9 different mini games last night, different maps and stuff. So it's pretty good for an initial launch. And I obviously think they're going to keep expanding it. So it's pretty cool, man. It's kind of the funniest thing I've seen like that in that vein since Fall Guys. And I didn't expect to laugh that much, honestly.
Yeah. Well, good. I do think they need a little bit more variety because a lot of them are just like slap fights.
They do
to knock people off of stuff. But the levels are pretty fun, and we passed like an entire evening just playing it. And I don't think we saw the same levels multiple times. So there's quite a few little stages. Also, Rob Farley II reports that there is already a request out for a turtle on the forums for party animals.
Nice. I'm sure it's coming.
I really like turtles. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to add
by the way,
the animals, I'm sure.
Samantha said, I missed the game they're talking about. Party Animals, it's called. It came out this week. It is also on Game Pass. You can just download and play it. It's great. Pampa, my partner in crime who I was playing with last night, he said, Party Animals is not family friendly. The betrayal is real. Yeah, so there's no there is what do you call it? There's no blocking of team damage. So if you go to jump kick an enemy and miss and hit your teammate, you're knocking them out. And it's just quite funny. So Bomber, who was
you also knock yourself out, by the way.
You can knock yourself out as well.
By headbutting somebody, and that's like your strong attack, but it also does damage to you. So you just knock each other out. It's pretty sad.
Yeah. Bomber was clocking me last night. That's what he said. Watch these gorilla hands. He was the gorilla, and we played like a couple games in a row where he kept missing the enemies and hitting me, and he just kept knocking me out over and over again. It's quite funny.
The dive is very dangerous.
Looking for turtles, frogs, penguins.
Turtles, frogs, penguins. I think all 3 of those are not in there.
I have to go back and look. Yeah, I forget.
Come on, party animals.
Pampa, thank you.
Oh, there's going to be a penguin DLC where it's all going to be like ice themed levels and creatures,
there's some ice stuff in there now. So there has to be. They already announced too they're going to start doing collabs. So like Ori's characters are coming into the game soon.
Oh, hell yeah.
And stuff like that. So, you're going to see all these.
Then I'll play Shovel Knight when he gets there.
Hell yeah.
Good. And I'll knock him out.
Everything.
But it's great. Definitely check it out if you're just looking for something funny. And you can play solo. You can just go into matchmaking. They'll put you on a team and, it's fun. Real fun. The only annoying thing is that we had to figure out last night is it's got that stupid thing in game where like it's got crossplay and stuff, but to party up is not easy as like just getting on Xbox and doing the voice party invite. You have to be friends in the game. So just be aware, which is really annoying. So the quickest way we found to do that, set up a custom game lobby, invite everyone to join it, and then just quickly add them as friends within the game. And then you can quickly, party up for matchmaking. But it's really, really annoying.
It also
otherwise
has couch co-op, where you could play fully custom matches with all players being present in person, which is kind of interesting.
I was talking to Hogue before the show, and I didn't know because I hadn't tried that. So
I don't have
a
Xbox controller ready, unfortunately.
Oh,
okay.
Whoa.
One controller for a system.
Most Xbox games are not play with your daughters ready, so I don't have a second controller.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I don't know why I have so many. Why do I always end up with games where we need multiple people? I don't know.
I just have too many because I have too many of everything. So
that's true.
I have 600 Joy-Cons, half of which are broken. So
fair enough. Yeah. But check it out, man. It's anyone watching, if you haven't, it's a blast. Wanted to jump over to Lies of P. So you guys talked a little bit about this last week. Obviously, Travis did the review. I did put just a couple hours into it this week because I wanted to just check it out and get a break from Phantom Liberty, which we'll get to. Really liking it so far. I know that you get to the what's that first boss call, which is like the prologue.
The clown?
Yeah, I forget his name. He's got a name. Parade Master, I think it is.
Bing boing the clown boy.
This is like writing the games.
Yeah.
But I got past him, got to the hotel, and then started down into the next level. And yeah, I'm really liking it so far. I've talked to some other people who are playing it. They really enjoyed it as well. I think general consensus is, as you guys said last week, that this is a excellent Souls-like. I know the developer NeoWiz came out and kind of thanked everyone for the reviews and the feedback. And, they said they're working on the first patch to, fix little things here and there and update it. Hogue, you still playing it?
Yeah, I love it. I've got a lot of games I'm playing right now, so it doesn't get as much time as it maybe needs to in order to gain any kind of mastery or skill. But what I really like about it, as you know about me, is kind of narrative focused. The Lies of P kind of hints that there's more that's going wrong, that something is deeply wrong with what you've been told, like from the start. And I really like that. It's a good tone for one of these games.
Yeah,
indeed.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll get to Phantom Liberty here shortly. I'll save that for the tail end of our conversation. But I know we've got Hogue's notes to get to, because I know you've got a notepad sitting there. I know you do. There it is. What do you got? What do you got for us?
Well, I have, with 2 stars, much more Diablo 4. And interestingly enough, I talk about Diablo 4 from time to time online. A lot of people seem to be animated about references to Diablo 4 being good. I really enjoy Diablo 4. I will continue to really enjoy Diablo 4. I'm sorry if you have fallen off Diablo 4, if you didn't enjoy Season 1. I still think it's one of the best games of the year. And I enjoy it basically every time I pop on. But as compared to others, I don't play it for 20 hours at a go, right? I generally play it at halftime in my football games and do a nightmare dungeon and get some glyph points and call it a day. And so I might be playing it differently than you, but I love Diablo 4. I'm looking forward to Season 2. And I'm pretty close to finishing I don't know what they call their battle pass, just a battle pass for Season 1. So that's unusual for me. I don't usually get to the end of these things.
A Season of the Malignant, wasn't it?
Yes, this is the Malignant, and then Season of Blood is next.
Yes. Yep.
But are you finding the same thing? I saw you nodding, Travis, that people have started responding negatively to references to Diablo 4.
Yep. Yeah, it's on a lot of IGN comments and stuff when we cover the game. I think this is pretty normal, right? Like a game will come out and it'll be well received, and then as people are upset with the live service, they start to turn against the game. The same thing happened with Halo Infinite. Is a great example of that. It had a very, very high Metacritic rating, and then people immediately started dunking on it because of the live service support. And so I think when that happens, it's more of a sign that maybe the live service model isn't meeting expectations rather than the base game. Because sometimes you'll see the opposite, where like Destiny will come out with an expansion and it'll get absolutely slaughtered. People will be like, this is terrible. And then the live service is good, and then people act like the game was good, even though the base game that came out wasn't. So I really just think it's people they turn on you real quick, or their opinions of you shift very, very quickly and super strongly. And I think it's probably a little bit toxic of a relationship between gamers and the developers. But
yeah, it's interesting to me because I'm not usually riding the wave of the live service as it happens. And I've said this to my brother, who plays these a lot more than me. But even at the end of Diablo 4 here, where I'm now in the full Paragon boards and running against Nightmare Dungeons and Helltides and things, it's like I'm not usually playing these games at that level, right? Where you're well into the post game, doing things at the highest end of the build crafting and whatnot. And I love it. And for me personally, that might be because I really don't experience it very often. But I think Diablo 4 has got to have some credit for engaging me in a way that other games have not. And so I really enjoy it.
I would say Diablo 4's like their live service model so far has been pretty strong in terms of content delivery. It's really been the balance and shaking the jello before it is set type of stuff that's pissing people off. And I get that because they put a lot of time into it, and the people who are already at the very, very end game and have worked on their builds are going to be angry anytime you shake the jello on them. But I'm a moderate in most things, so I don't think a lot of the backlash is super warranted. It certainly doesn't mean Diablo 4 is a bad game, and I quite like it. But yeah, this is like normal for live service games. People are the worst. They have very poor impulse control usually, and just get to the point where they want to send a developer a death threat for a game that they love and spend thousands of hours doing. And I'm just like, yo, let's calm down, folks. So, but we're definitely seeing it in the comments as well. But Diablo 4 is a great game.
Yeah, and we talk about this all the time too. Like, games are not endless. They try to be, and you can play them endlessly. But I think there's some expectations that need to be kept in check at times too. There's a million other amazing games right now. Take a break. If you're not enjoying yourself, take a break. Play some of those other amazing games. Come back to Diablo when they have their next season, next update, whatever it is. You don't have to play that game for hours per day. It's
don't try to power through it. That's what I've always said about games, right? Is like, you got to play what you enjoy. The thing that is surprising to me with Diablo 4 is, even if I don't necessarily feel like playing a game, or I'm not sure I'm going to like playing Diablo at this moment in time, I put that on and like an hour melts away at least. Like, that's just that kind of game for me. It's just matching what I'm looking for basically every time I jump in. So I'm playing a lot of Diablo 4. And the other things on Hogue's notes, as it were, is that I've finally progressed far enough into Motorfest, the crew Motorfest, that I understand how it works a little bit better. Like, I was just not really understanding what they were doing with what they call the main stage, which requires you to complete 3 playlists. And I didn't really know why. That didn't make a lot of sense. But now that I have done more of the main stage and realized that one of the tracks is basically replaying playlists you've already finished in a new mode that's just for whatever the main stage is doing that week, it makes a lot more sense. And it is very compelling in this kind of like make bars go up way that Diablo 4 live service, and also one of the other games I'm playing this week, Mortal Kombat 1, do really, really well. Mortal Kombat, by the way, I adore. Mortal Kombat continues to be an awesome plot-based fighting game, and I haven't played Mortal Kombat 11 in some time, but it seems to me like the animations are way better than they used to be in Mortal Kombat 1. So I'm really having a good time with it.
It really
I'm only
is
about
stunning.
halfway through the campaign, so don't spoil me.
Have you started to understand what I was talking about with Mortal Kombat being wholesome in this game?
I mean, I understand kind of Liu Kang's position. It's interesting that the way they've positioned it, you still have to have conflict and evil, right? Or whatever else you're going to deal with. That it's mostly, and I should have anticipated this from the name being Mortal Kombat 1, it's mostly kind of rebuilding the setups that existed before. Yeah. Almost with a kind of Destiny vibe. Like, yeah, you tried to set it up this way, Liu Kang, but it's going to come out this way. It's like, okay, sure, that makes sense.
But the fact that they're painting some of the like mortal enemies and like bad guys as actually being like good guys, or people who, if they did something that was wrong, did it for the right reasons, and you know what I mean? Like, it just feels like a lot less like dark. Like, you kind of understand every character's position and like how they, I don't know.
Well, the interesting thing to me is like, it seems to require, and it's very hard to separate because I have this, it seems to require background knowledge of a lot of the things that Mortal Kombat was doing for the last 20 years or so.
Basically, yeah.
And it's very clever in certain of those respects, but I think it probably needed like a codex or something for like the original world and like what's new. What does it mean that Raiden's a farmer, right? Like what is happening there? All right. We got him his lightning powers. We're going to get this all done. But all this stuff, I think, is interesting and clever, and maybe doesn't get the credit it deserves, because who can remember freaking 11 games of Mortal Kombat?
And it's actually more than 11, right? Because they've had all sorts of extra games along the way and crazy lore. Yeah, Mortal Kombat lore is wild. It's all over the place. But
no, I'm really enjoying it. It jumps off the screen. It is gorgeous.
Yeah.
It is super flashy when you got like 2 magic users going at each other. It's really, really good. And I like the invasion setup. I like what they're doing with that, which is essentially kind of just a controlled tower, if you will, with specific kind of bespoke challenges to get you costumes and goodies in the way that the old Crypt would have, or some of the other adventure modes that they had in the various Mortal Kombats. But it's smart. It's set up to support a kind of season pass type mentality. And I just think it's a very, very good game. Very strong. I like it more than Street Fighter, but I lean towards Mortal Kombat anyway. I
feel the exact same way. And I'm kind of upset I didn't get back to the story mode yet because I just obviously haven't had time. But I'm really looking forward to getting back into it and playing through it. And if you didn't see the chat on the SG side, Elu, who did our review for it, our fighting game guru, if you will, he said he used the word wholesome in our review. So, which is cool.
Nice. Yeah. We did it.
Changing hearts and changing minds. Tie guy.
There you go. There you go.
No, it is wholesome. It is wholesome.
I think that's fair. Certainly, the beginning I really liked. It's you're trying to figure out what's going on, and I think it's a good game. And I sound more surprised than I am at that, I guess. But sometimes another Realm game comes out, and they're always going to have high production values in their campaigns and things like that. But I don't like them every time. Like I pretty famously really did not like the second Injustice. Like it was just all over the place.
That was one of their least interesting stories.
Second Injustice.
I don't even remember it.
I don't recall loving Mortal Kombat 11. I Chronica and the time stuff. I don't recall loving that plot.
I liked it. I liked it better than 10. 10 was my least favorite new.
10's the one where they're fighting the. Yeah, I like 10. That's the one where they're fighting the sorcerer, right? And Johnny Cage's kids and all that are in it.
Sure.
Okay.
Like I said, Mortal Kombat.
I really remember.
I don't remember. I just remember I didn't play X as much as
9, 10, 11, and now 1 are amazing. It's 10. I call it.
9's the GOAT. 9's the best.
I mean, 9 is 1, 2, and 3 put together in fancy modern clothing. So yes,
exactly.
9 is the best.
And don't forget, 9 was in the 360 days when you had the King of the Hill, where you had your avatars who could watch the matches, and you could yell stuff and hold up signs and throw tomatoes at the screen. And we had many.
It was the last hard Mortal Kombat game. Getting through that campaign was tough.
It was like playing the arcade, where they would beat your butt.
It's rough.
Hard AI in fighting games, I think, is tough to make fun because it often feels unfair.
Feels punishing. Yeah, I agree with you. All right, that's Hoeg's notes for this week.
We're not done with Hoeg's notes.
We're not done with Hoeg's notes. September 24th, Hoeg's notes continues. Please go carry on.
I also picked up Cyberpunk because the 2.0 update came out, and I am getting ready for Phantom Liberty. I have to say, the 2.0 update is strange and interesting in that it makes you kind of constantly check, wait, that's not how the game used to work, is it? In your head. And it's not. Like it's almost a different model of game in the same world, in the same plot, but a different model of the actual video game that they created, that they put on top of it. I think the 2.0 is probably warranted for that reason alone, Travis. But after playing Starfield, I know some people online have said, Starfield looks bad next to Cyberpunk. I actually feel kind of the opposite. Cyberpunk is noticeably emptier than I remember it feeling as compared to Starfield, with everybody that you can talk to and everything that you can pick up and examine. Cyberpunk has a lot more set dressing that is just set dressing than Starfield, in my experience. And while I am enjoying Cyberpunk, and certainly more than I did when it first came out, but maybe not as much as I thought I would more than when 1.5 came out, which is where it really kind of locked down the console performance. I think I just prefer Starfield as both a game design and a world. Cyberpunk is this dirty, dingy world, and I don't like it as much as Starfield, which is a little bit more hopeful.
Oops, all neon.
So I can get into it. So I reviewed Phantom Liberty. Review is live on our channel and on the site. I did written and video. So it's kind of weird, right? Because 2.0 and Phantom Liberty came at the same time. So it was kind of, a lot of reviews didn't really discern between the two. I tried a little bit because Phantom Liberty has one set of features and a new story, right, that add to the game. And then 2.0 did this over here. Talking about them from a combination standpoint, I already love Cyberpunk. So I think I was in a different camp than you to begin with, Hogue. 2.0 and Phantom Liberty just put it over the top for me. I really, really, really love Phantom Liberty. It is a very impressive, not only addition to the game, but the story itself and the missions you do in the story, the voice acting, the motion capture with Idris Elba, and So Mong Chang, I think her name. I'm gonna mess her name up, but who plays Songbird, who's one of the other main characters, is just incredible. Sometimes you get those characters where you get a a Megan Fox, if you will. You get that cameo acting in a game, and you're just like, oh
Rock
boy,
Case City.
I don't love
Rock
Keanu
City.
in Cyberpunk Prime.
Yeah.
You what?
I don't love Keanu in Cyberpunk Prime.
He's not good.
I don't think his performance is very good.
What's Cyberpunk Prime?
He's talking about the
not
vanilla
Phantom
campaign.
Liberty.
Oh, did you and you finished Cyberpunk fully?
I did.
Oh yeah, see, I disagree entirely. I think Keanu is excellent. There's a curve there. I didn't like him at the start of the game, but by the end, I loved him to death. And he continues in Phantom Liberty, right? He's depending, I think, on some choices and stuff. But he has
surprised when they announced that.
Yeah, he has new performances, new everything. He's kind of with you, and the integration between your character V and him, and now all these new main characters that you meet, and that story, and just some of the quests are really, really well done. So
looking forward to it.
Yeah, combined with 2.0, as you said, right? So then you have this new. The thing I like most about 2.0 is the cyberware improvement. So now it feels a lot more like true RPG character building, where you can min max and kind of play around with your stats and how you want your build to be. So the cyberware adjustment combined with the skill redesign is really strong, much stronger than it was at launch. To give them credit there.
Those skill trees are a different design philosophy. I mean, I was not expecting that when I got into that screen. I was like, oh, you guys completely changed what these talent trees are.
Yep.
Not just like what the skills are, but how they operate.
Yeah. I was surprised at that too, because I was like, all right, I'm usually intellect and technical, and then I was like, technical? This isn't what my technical skills were supposed to be. This is a totally different skill set. So it's kind of weird. But
yeah,
I did play a little bit of Cyberpunk 2.0, and I will say the system is a lot better. I like that the game runs even better than the 1.5, which I didn't really start to dig into Cyberpunk really until the 1.5, just because I just didn't click with me the first time I tried it. But I will say, to Hoeg's point, one thing that Starfield does better is like it's tough to spend time in the Cyberpunk universe. You notice every dialogue option, you have like 3 choices. You could be kind of a dick, you could be a complete dick, or you could be the biggest piece of shit that ever was shat. Those are your options. Like, there's no good person playthrough in Cyberpunk. You're kind of just always at least a little bit of a dick in that game. And that's true of like every character. Like, you can redeem Johnny Silverhands, but like ultimately he's still
Silverhands.
Yeah,
he's got 2.
He's still a total douchebag, like, at the end. Bro, he's a terrorist. He killed millions.
Come on. I mean, kill millions. Calm down. I think you're forgetting.
How many people did he kill with that nuclear bomb, Ains? How many people did he died?
It wasn't a nuke. He took down Arasaka Tower.
It was
deserved.
It was literally a nuke.
Deserved.
It wasn't nuclear. Well,
I'm with you, Johnny.
We've got is the verses here. Is like how much you hate the corpos or not.
Eat the rich, fight the power. That's right. Get him, Johnny.
I mean, I'm all for that. Like, you don't have to twist my arm on that. Like, but here's the thing. You could blow up a corporate building using a nuclear bomb. I'll take that. And you could actually still win me over as being a good person. But Johnny Silverhands does not do that. Johnny Silverhand, sorry, does not do that. He does not do that in any stretch of the imagination. He is a douchebag. In his bones.
I'm not liking this slander of the Johnny Silverhands. All of them. I don't like all of them.
All of the hands.
Well, he's a construct.
Yeah, no.
I love how some people are trying to justify it was a mini nuke. Okay, bro. Let's get out of here. Little genocide.
I'm fully willing. I saw in the chat some people saying, that's the Cyberpunk world. I'm fully willing to grant that that's Cyberpunk world. I'm just not as interested in being in Cyberpunk world.
Yeah, and I think that's fair.
Starfield.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fair. And the funny thing is, right, like I was really enjoying my time in Starfield. I got pulled off because of other reviews. So I'm still only at about 40 hours in Starfield. I was really enjoying it. And to be fair,
my criticism was more about the choice. It doesn't really feel like you have too much of a choice because your options are like different degrees of being a terrible person, and the game sort of makes you accept that premise that in this world it's kind of impossible to be a good person.
Well,
That's sort of
Starfield, you can literally like talk to just about everybody in the space, and they'll have something to say about who they are and what the space is. And there's just a lot more in Cyberpunk where you're just, okay, yes, you're at a club, you're dancing, it's very nice, very good. We'll keep walking. The set dressing is good. Cyberpunk has strong set dressing. I've always thought that, but it isn't as interactive as Starfield. I don't think anybody would argue that.
No, I'm not arguing that either. I was just going to say before Travis rudely interrupted me that the thing is, I knew this comparison was coming, and I said previously you can compare them, but they're different games. And yes, they're both big open RPGs to a degree, right? But I think there's things that Starfield does better, to your point, Hogue, and I think you just nailed one of them. But I think there's things that Cyberpunk does better. The narrative, especially Phantom Liberty with the main characters and stuff, there's nothing in Starfield even close. It's not even close. The gunplay, the moment action. Once I went back to Cyberpunk and started getting into my like super dash and jump and shooting and everything, I was like, oh my God, like I don't miss Starfield at all. It's so much better. It feels like a proper shooter.
The shooting's better.
I'll give you the gunplay. I don't know if you've played enough of Starfield's narrative plots.
I know it does change. That's fair. Fair. But there's the improvements with 2.0 and some of the enemy situations. There's just a lot of things that have been improved there. But I love my time in that world. I think that the character development and some of the relationships are really strong. One of the really cool things that happens in Phantom Liberty that I point out in my review is that as you're playing, right? And I used by the way, quick tip for everyone listening, GOG, CDPR's PC platform supports cloud saves across console and PC now. So I started playing on PC where I had a save from about 6 to 8 hours. I was at the end of the prologue, and I thought I would jump into Phantom Liberty. You cannot. So what I had to do was take my core game save from Xbox, get it on the cloud, and then bring it over to PC. Now, when the game launches on Tuesday officially, you can either play your late game save and go into Phantom Liberty with that character, or they're giving you the option to just start right into Phantom Liberty with a pre-made kind of character and skills. Like they're going to give you points. So it's up to you, but I just wanted to let you know that you have that as an option. What I was saying is that as you're playing Phantom Liberty, there's so many things that harken back to your original playthrough of Cyberpunk. So many Easter eggs, your conversations of the relationships you made, who you sexed with, whatever, all of that continues. And there's new conversations and missions and people you'll see in the world that, you only heard about in the original game. There's just a lot of really, really cool world building that I think improves upon that original foundation, to your point, Hogue. It's still not to the level where I see what you're saying, person to person. But it has a lot of that in there too. And I just love it. I love it a lot. And by the way, I was playing, people asked me, I played on PC. Luckily, I have my new PC. So I'm playing at ultra wide, max everything with full path tracing and the DLSS 3.5 that just came out. So literally the top way you can play it. It is, I don't know how a game looks like that. It's honestly the most impressive looking video game I've ever seen. At
I will not be playing it that way, but I've heard that.
Yeah, it's mind boggling how impressive it looks. Some of the screenshots, like I'll just sit there and they have photo mode, right? So I'm sitting on photo mode and I'm just looking at my screen like that is just remarkable. It's breathtaking, honestly. So breathtaking. There you go. You're breathtaking. But anyway, yeah, it's good. It's good. Yeah, so was I. Yeah. If you're looking forward to
together, we didn't even hang out.
We did not podcast together back then.
In the night. Ships passing in the night. We didn't know. We were in each other's orbit all that time.
All that time, we didn't know the love that would form.
That's true.
But yeah, if you're hype, let me say this: if you already love Cyberpunk, you are gonna be madly in love with Phantom Liberty and 2.0. If you were on the fence with Cyberpunk, it's definitely a much better experience. I say improved experience. There's a lot there, and the story of Phantom Liberty, I think anyone can enjoy because it's that good. And then if you've never played, obviously goes without saying, now's the time to give it a shot.
For me, I want to like it more than I do. Witcher 3 is one of my favorite games ever, and I've come back to Cyberpunk in like multiple attempts now, and I'll keep going with this one. It just is noticeably lessened by how much I've been enjoying Starfield.
Yeah, Yeah. And I think they're both. I love Cyberpunk already, and what I've played of Starfield, I'm loving too. I think they're both, worthy of time, right?
Well,
but
I've
I
now
I
played
agree
a
with
lot
you.
of both of them, and I think they're both great games. I think Starfield clicks with me more on certain areas because it is very Bethesda RPG, and I do agree with Hoeg's. Like, a lot of the world is sort of just like there. It feels really weird to be driving around town and then all of a sudden some people just start shooting at you, and you're like, "Whoa, hey, what is going on here in this town?" But yeah, it's like, it's just I get that they're doing like the Witcher formula, but it just feels different if you're in a fantasy world and there's like a couple tents of bandits, coming after you with crossbows versus like I'm in the street and there's just like a gang shooting at me as I drive by, and I'm like, what's going on here? Why is this happening all the time? But yeah, I did finally beat Cyberpunk. I think I told you guys this. I beat Cyberpunk after the 1.5 version, and you've now like seen the ending, but I actually restarted from scratch for the 2.0 just because I figured, if I find a couple spare hours to get through it, I would like to get to Phantom Liberty. Do you have to get all the way through the story for Phantom Liberty? I assume it takes place after.
I don't know, because it definitely won't start after the prologue. So I finished the whole prologue thinking that was it, and I could start it, and it wouldn't let me. It just says like on the Phantom Liberty menu, basically in your new quest log, it says you have to wrap up things in Night City to some degree. So it may be alluding to the fact that you do need to go through the story.
It could be the Act 2 break though. Like that's when the game opens.
It could. So I don't know, because I was on a time crunch, obviously, with the embargo. So as soon as I finished the prologue and I couldn't start it, I was like, crap, I got to figure out a different way. So that's when I pulled over my end game save and I just started from there. So I don't know, honestly.
My plan had been to get to Act 2 because I figured that's where it would be, but we'll see.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. It's funny about Witcher 3 because I know obviously CDPR and we talk about it. Witcher 3 is one of my favorite games of all time. I'd have to take a step back now and look at them holistically to see with 2.0, with Phantom Liberty and this kind of end game Cyberpunk, if the game is up there with Witcher 3 for me or not. I don't really know. What I will say is that in my review, I call Phantom Liberty Cyberpunk's blood and wine moment. The level of expansion, the level of addition is very reminiscent of what CDPR did with Blood and Wine for Witcher 3. And I think it's just excellent. So, yes, sir.
Well, I'm excited about it. I have it on pre-order. I'm looking forward to Phantom Liberty. That's why I'm playing 2.0. So, yeah, I jumped back into that. The last bits of my notepad here are that the Switch...
This is the whole show.
Hoeg's notes.
It's the run of show.
The Switch is having a sale for the Tokyo Game Show, and so I picked up like a handful of JRPGs and other things that I had skipped, basically because they weren't the highest level of my interest. So I'm playing like the Star Ocean remaster. I got Octopath Traveler 2 on the Switch. I had gotten it on the PlayStation before. So I'm enjoying those. I love JRPGs. Obviously, I'm continuing to play Batten Kaidos, which a number of people asked me about. I think that's a Switch exclusive. And then I also picked up Pokemon Scarlet. We had that, but I started playing it because we got the DLC, like the Secret of Area Zero. And so I'm going through that a little bit. I never hate the Pokemon as much as the internet does, but I'm playing Pokemon Scarlet as well.
That's awesome, Hogue. I didn't want to skip over.
No, that's it.
Ludwig says you need to do the Voodoo Boys quest before you can start Phantom Liberty. So I think you're right, Hogue. That would be Act 2, right? Where that
would be very
happens.
early in Act 2.
Not too far.
Yeah. So there you go, for anyone wondering. But like I said, according to the press release, they're going to give you the option to start Phantom Liberty directly if you don't want to kind of play through again or use your end game save or whatever. So, all right. Thank you guys in the chat, by the way. Travis, we've talked about a bunch of games, but anything else you want to chat on? Anything new, different you've been playing?
Yeah. I've been playing more Mortal Kombat 1. I started Immortals of Avium, which seems good so far. I don't think the writing's that strong, but
I've heard good things about that game, but it's a shame what happened, obviously.
Yeah, what happened? I rember seeing
half their studio got let go last week.
That's right. Yeah.
Because it didn't meet expectations. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I bought it. I'm doing my part. I played the beta for First Descendant.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe you guys saw that one, but it seems okay. I think it's going for like a Destiny type vibe, which it's another one of those. But I will say it felt significantly it felt pretty good in the gameplay department. So we'll see how that goes. I'll follow up on that one. Payday 3, my review for that is out. In case you didn't, I think I had a review in progress last time we talked, and so the full review went up on Monday or Tuesday, or something like
did
that.
I see an apology for server infrastructure or something about that game?
Yeah. So if you're not familiar with the Payday franchise, they have always had really, really bad technical issues, and sometimes it takes them like more than a year to fix it on certain platforms. And as soon as this game launched, I was like, "Yep, seems like they're doing that again." So you can play the game, but like, there's bugs. The menu is like super unresponsive, which can be frustrating. Sometimes you'll have issues with matchmaking or won't be able to get online, and it is an online game. And so Payday 2 had a lot of the same issues, and it took them like 18 months to fix it on some of the platforms. And like this, so far, people are pretty pissed at it because they want to play the game, and it doesn't work all that well. So even though I love Payday and I want it, in my heart of hearts, I want it to be a 10 of 10 game because robbing banks is just awesome. I gave it a 7 out of 10, which means good, not great. And a lot of the reason for that really had to do with the lack of content. There's only 8 heists right now. And the fact that it just is rife with technical issues. And, there's a good game in there, but you have to deal with the technical challenges that are pretty much always present. So
I know that Alex was talking about playing with you because I know you guys got some games in together, and his kind of write up and what he said about was exact same thing you're saying. Basically, there's a lot of fun there to be had if you're in there with friends in the heist, but there's a lot of stuff you have to work around to have that fun, basically.
Yeah, that's basically exactly it. Alex was fun to play with. I mean, when you get 4 people, yourself and 3 others in a group, and you're all communicating and talking about builds and trying to do like a stealth run at the bank where none of you guys get caught and you never have to even fire a single shot. It gets really intense. You're doing like call outs, and it's just like, that's the ultimate bank heist fantasy. Who doesn't want to roll with their boys and steal a whole bunch of loot and shoot at the cops if necessary. It's just a fun game.
I'd rather drop a nuke on Arasaka Tower, but I get the point you're making.
Yeah. Look, it takes all types of criminals. It's really just do you prefer war crimes or felonies?
I'll just sit over here twiddling my thumbs.
Hogue's not commenting on this part of the show
because you're a goddamn cop, you lawyer. God,
I'm an officer of the legal system.
This guy chooses Charmander as his starter Pokemon for sure. You cop.
I don't know how those relate, but I do believe it.
Oh my god.
Pokemon fans know. Every Pokemon fan knows if you choose Charmander, like, I don't trust you, bro.
I have to go down and see what they were. It was Charmander. And I picked Piplup at some point.
Oh my god. Oh man, anything else?
No, that's it. That's the whole post-it.
We got through it. By the way, I want to mention that
also I am playing Resident Evil 4. The new expansion, the Ada one.
I was just going to bring it up because I've heard it's excellent. I know IGN gave it a 9. I know some other sites, and I was like, perfect timing to get that game back up on the video game award list. Let's go. I love it. Oh
boy.
Let's go.
No, but I am playing. I'm more than halfway through the Ada Wong expansion, and it's cool. It answers some of the questions about what she was doing during that Resident Evil timeline, and it does jump around a little bit. Is my problem with it, but I am surprisingly impressed. I mean, it's not a good system by any stretch of the imagination, but it's more than I thought. The stealth combat, like Ada is a sneakier person, so you can get through entire sections without triggering the alarm. And I don't even know if that was possible in base Resident Evil 4 game, but it certainly didn't feel like it. They don't really add a ton of mechanics around it. Like you can't like throw bottles or whistle or do any of that stuff, but you can sneak around and like get through sections without setting off the alarm, which I thought was pretty cool. So.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Before we jump to our main topics here, let's get Sid is here from India with the 4,000 rupees. This question: does it feel like games have started to include time inflating mechanics to their games as more companies start using playtime as their metric of success? I felt this a bit in Starfield, intentional delays in the menu, which I modded out, and the type of grind in Diablo 4. And sorry, Travis, this is really kind of put you impossible to see here, but I don't know. Personally, I don't really know how to comment on this. I think there's obviously some games where keeping the carrot on the string in front of the player to keep you playing is part of that dynamic and part of a game that's designed that way.
I usually think of time inflation as subscription MMOs, right? Like they need to get you to the next month's subscription. This is why Netflix separates their seasons into like part 1 and part 2. But I think it's kind of conflating 2 points here, because I think what is also being talked about with respect to like Diablo 4 live services and battle passes is just player engagement. So all these games can add these kinds of things. And to the extent that the metric of success is engagement, playtime, that's just based on the notion that if you're in the game, if you're thinking about the game, you're more likely to ultimately one day spend some money on some diamonds, jewels, stars, or whatever else we're selling to you to get horse armor or whatever it is. I certainly don't think Starfield is bigger because they wanted to delay anything or to inflate any time. And to the extent the menu isn't fast enough, that's just technical, I would say, more than anything else.
I think it might actually be flavor, because he's talking about the intentional delays to the menu where things pop up and it makes it a little slower, but I think it's on purpose. The menu changes are for like the world aesthetic of like you open it up and then the menu's like doing interesting kind of movements. So I will say this, time player engagement is definitely a metric that a lot of live service games or free to play season pass type games keep in mind, and exactly for the reasons Hogue said. But that is not a metric for lots of games. Lots of games don't really care how much time you're spending in it. I wouldn't expect that Starfield cares all that much. They might care because they're a Game Pass game. That's their one sort of like, foot in the door of like, okay, well, maybe time spent playing the game does matter. But it's also a Bethesda game where I would argue that that's kind of always been their thing, right? They like you to put lots and lots and lots of time into their games, and they sort of design their games around being these massive inflated things. So I don't know if that's a great example. But there are certainly some practices in the industry that are about manipulating the way you spend time that are bad. One of the ones I would argue is like probably one of the worst ones is the way Ubisoft does XP in like their Assassin's Creed games, for example, where they will sell you a download or a DLC that will double the amount of XP you get. And then if you pay for that, it feels like the game is balanced better. And if you don't pay for it, it feels like the game is really poorly balanced in terms of how long it takes you to level up and get to new areas. And that, I think, sometimes encourages bad game design when you're trying to keep people inside the game for as long as possible, and then you intentionally sort of like put a damper on how fun it feels for the player to like level up at regular intervals and that sort of stuff because you're inflating it. And I think there is definitely an important conversation in there. Where is that line between keeping players in your game and actually doing things that make the game more boring so that people will spend money to speed up the leveling or whatever the heck. And so, it's an interesting conversation. I don't think Starfield's a good example for it, but there's lots of other examples we could talk about, and the way that they design it is a little sus. Can be a little questionable.
Yeah, I think that's well said, Travis.
Wow, it's a nice way to hear that from Hogue.
I think that's well said. He followed up, Sid, and he said, for Diablo, I'm talking about the affix re-rolls on gear and the way it's done. Starfield has intentional delay in menu navigation, which Rob Frawley commented on too. He said, the issue I have with Starfield menu isn't animations, it's the time during and immediately after those where the input is disabled. So the animations are fine, but locking out input is bad.
Yeah, you won't get any argument from me about Starfield's tragically bad user experience and UI. I think it's very, very. To me, it just annoys the crap out of me. So it's one of the game's shortcomings, I think, for sure.
Yeah, and he said, "What about Game Pass metric?" I think that's what Travis commented on as well, Sid. Around time played. It is a metric where they measure Game Pass success, right?
That's definitely a metric. And if you could point to me to a game that Microsoft has made that very clearly stretches the time played for that, I will accept your argument, because I do think that there is a little bit they have sort of, they're incentivized to keep people playing those Game Pass games longer. But I just don't think Starfield's a good example, just because they've always sort of been the type of game that they are. I don't see anything in Starfield and go, oh well, they clearly changed their normal game design to make it play longer. And I think there's better examples you could point to where you're like, yeah, like Destiny is the one I go back to because I know the most about it, but like they literally changed some of the way that their game works and the grind works because they care about player engagement so much, and they're clearly trying to keep people in the game. And I think a lot of that time it works against the player's interest, which I'm not a fan of because I'm a player.
Yeah. Yep. I'm a player. No cap, and I'm a player. We have all the commentary here.
I didn't mean it that way, but I will take it. I'm a player.
Sid, thank you very much for the generous super chat. Appreciate you. All right. Let's jump over then to our main topics. By the way, we've got nearly 300 hanging out with us. If you're enjoying it, share this out. Let people know. We appreciate it. So Hogue, this is your topic. It's the first news, actual real news we've had on it in quite some time. But this week, the CMA provisionally approved Xbox's acquisition of ABK due to the cloud rights for 15-year, I believe, agreement being sold over to Ubisoft.
It's perpetual, but it's the next 15 years of IP.
Of IP, thank you. Okay, and then the CMA consultation is supposed to run through October 6th with Microsoft coming out, I believe. I checked this morning, saying they plan to hopefully close by October 18th.
That's when their extension goes to.
Okay. All right. So hit us. What we got here?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was big news in the acquisition. The CMA decided, as they basically had to, that if Xbox isn't taking the cloud rights to the Activision properties, that we can't get mad about Xbox having a monopoly in cloud providing services. So Xbox arranging to have all the cloud rights go to Ubisoft did solve the CMA's problem, which reasonable minds can differ on the legitimacy of. But the CMA is a big statutory process, and I'm an American lawyer. I'm not a United Kingdom lawyer. I can't speak to some of the specifics there. They have statutory requirements to kind of come to a final decision. It's a provisional decision this week. And once that happens, then Xbox will have approval from the UK and not being blocked anywhere else. You would assume the deal will go through on a very short-term basis. And yes, it would likely be before that October 18th date where the current merger agreement terminates. Because if they have to go past that date, they have to get another amendment from Activision. And while I don't think that would cost them much, you don't want to do it if you don't have to. So for people that want the deal to close, just want the news to be done, it's a good day. It's basically over, give or take.
Okay.
Nice.
All right.
I'm happy for it to be over. Regardless of what you think of market consolidation, like I think this was always going to happen, and the fight was it was super interesting, and I like it when things get ugly and you get to learn a little bit about the companies involved, which we learned a whole lot about the companies involved in this process. I think everybody's ready to move on.
Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah,
for sure.
People asked me about doing a video on this, and it's like, even if I did a video on the CMA, it wouldn't be until their final opinion comes out, not their provisional. Right. But this is really kind of just moving in the direction you would have assumed when the CMA decided to stop their process. So
I definitely think the cloud thing is sort of BS, and Microsoft called their bluff because they know that that's not really that big of a deal, right? But what does it mean to not have the streaming rights to Activision? It means that like if Activision makes a new Call of Duty game next year, that only Ubisoft can provide a cloud version of that game, or what does that mean?
Well, that the cloud version of that game would be published by Ubisoft. Would they publish it on Game Pass through xCloud? I don't know. Would they just put it on Ubisoft Plus? What is theirs called? I don't know.
It is Ubisoft Plus. Yep.
You can usually guess that it's Plus, but I didn't remember. So yeah, they have the rights, right? So like when you create a piece of intellectual property, you have the right to control distribution, the right to control copies, and you can divide that however you like. So it's like when they make a Call of Duty game at Microsoft, then they have automatically licensed out the right to put it in the cloud to Ubisoft, exclusive to Ubisoft. They can't do it themselves.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a very simple concession.
Well, it's a silly one, right? It's one that Microsoft didn't want to start with because it doesn't make a ton of sense, and every other regulator didn't require it. But Ubisoft's happy to pick it up.
Yeah, for sure.
Is that only in the UK? In the UK, Ubisoft is publishing it, and Xbox can publish it everywhere else, or are they giving up the cloud streaming rights everywhere?
No, I'd have to look at the press release again, but I believe it's everywhere. It's
I believe it's
cloud
everywhere as
streaming
well.
rights in their entirety, right? Because the UK wouldn't necessarily be convinced on the theory of what they put forth in their theory of harms if Xbox has those rights anywhere, right? Because the UK is looking at this as if there's a monopoly in supply globally, that will affect UK citizens. So they didn't want Microsoft to have the cloud rights, period. Does that make a ton of sense? I don't think it does, but that's what they asked for.
It's a dumb argument, but it's one that I think Xbox is smartly saying, well, it's not really worth collapsing the whole deal over. So
that's right.
But, yeah.
Yep.
And you said it lasts for 15 years or indefinite?
It covers the next 15 years of Activision created property, and it's a perpetual license. Ubisoft will have those rights forever.
Got it.
Yeah. Which is kind of interesting given some of the stuff we're going to talk about here shortly. But yeah, I think nice to see that that's coming to a close finally. I mean, for me, I don't know about you guys. I see October 6th, I see October 18th, and in my head, I'm thinking, oh, it's a little ways away yet. It's 2 weeks away. I keep forgetting we're at the end of September. So it's not far. Thank you. I appreciate the clarity as always. So the big kind of thing in line with this week, which was kind of wild actually, was the leaks of all these Xbox internal documents, man. There is an awful lot to go through here. I figured we'd cover some of the key points because I know everyone's been talking about it, but I wanted to touch on the hardware, at least some of the games, and kind of Xbox strategy. So I don't know about you guys, but this was pretty fascinating as well, in my opinion, as I was looking through all this stuff. So let me get these added. So I want to be able to put some of this stuff on the screen, which I forgot to upload. I'm uploading those now. So we'll start with the couple major leaks. So next year is supposedly going to be a refresh Series X from Xbox. The code name was Brooklyn. It is going to be an all digital Series X with 2 terabyte hard drive or SSD, a USB-C front port, and a new controller, which is codenamed Sabile. I don't know if that matters. The controller itself is going to be $70 standard controller, but it's going to have a bunch of new features, including the ability of lift to wake. So when you pick up the controller, it'll turn itself on. Direct to cloud functionality, so you can use it direct to play cloud games directly. Bluetooth, of course, and the new Xbox wireless codec. I would say the biggest kind of news is they're adding precision haptic feedback, which, a lot of people since the DualSense's release have talked about. So Xbox is going to haptic feedback and potential for speakers within using those haptics. It's going to have a rechargeable and swappable battery, which is cool, and modular thumbsticks. So you'll be able to replace the thumbsticks as they wear over time, which is obviously a very good thing as well. So here is what the controller looks like, by the way, guys. And there's been a lot of jokes about the fact that it's wearing pants. But you can kind of see some of the features we're talking about here if you're watching us live. Sorry for the audio listeners, we've got the picture up on the screen. But generally speaking, guys, it all comes down to personal preferences and ergonomics. But the Series X controller ergonomically is my favorite controller. I think it's the most comfortable. I think it's the best to use. I, of course, do like the haptics in the DualSense. I think they did some really neat things on the DualSense, so I'm happy to hear that Xbox is implementing those. But I really like the sound of this. This seems to be, for me, kind of the best of both worlds. You get a rechargeable battery, but you can swap it out once it starts to die, right? You can swap out your thumbsticks if they start to drift or you have issues. You get the haptics, you get the speaker, you get the new wireless codec and being able to use it on any device, basically. This looks really good to me, other than the pants. The pants look ridiculous. But, from a feature set.
It's got a tuxedo on. It's going out for night.
But I like the concepts here. I like the technology on what they're talking about here. It also, I don't know about you guys, seems like a lot of controller for $70. I know that the DualSense is $70, and that makes sense, right? But the DualSense doesn't have all the features at the edge, like the swappable battery or the replaceable thumbsticks and modular stuff, right? So that the fact that you're getting kind of all that customization or ability to rebuild the controller over time easily is impressive. Assuming this comes as expected, right?
Also, I think their theme with Sabile, because their last controller, if I'm not mistaken, was Merlin, right? So it's like a medieval fantasy characters' names. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it says in the bottom right there you can say same ergonomics as Merlin.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So
that
Sabiel's
is
the queen, right? And Merlin's the wizard. So they're just doing fantasy characters or medieval characters. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Well, the
But
trick with code names is you don't want them to be really obvious if just the name leaks. Like one of the problems that I have in my line of work is that people that are acquiring one of my clients or otherwise tend to name their projects like Project Wolverine or like Project Great Lakes was one of them. And it's like, guys, you're trying to keep people from understanding what company you're buying. There's only one pharmaceutical manufacturer that it could be.
Gotcha.
So it's like, lay off with your project names. I know you like feeling like you're a spy. So at least Sabiel is like, that doesn't mean controller.
Yeah, Merlin and Sabiel, I would never have guessed were a line of controllers. But I guess
you could be on the PlayStation side and just be big Matrix fans, right? Those are Morpheus and Neo.
That's true.
Right.
But now if we see a medieval fantasy character name, we're going to know it's a controller project, right? Unless they change it up.
Yeah, unless they mix it up, which they probably are going to mix up a lot of things after this leak. The other interesting thing I didn't mention in the feature set, in the lower left there, you can see it's got an accelerometer too, which is how they're doing the lift to wake functionality from what I read. But that also can play into other things, as we've seen on like the Switch, right? So the Joy-Cons. So pretty interesting. All right. So that was, I actually don't have the picture, but the Series X basically looks like it's like a round version of the Series X.
It looks like the original Amazon Echo.
Yeah, it looks like an
Echo. Looks like an Echo. Yeah.
Cylinder. Yeah.
So the interesting thing here, guys, and I don't know about you, because obviously we don't know all of what Xbox has cooking, but from this leak, we didn't see a mid-gen refresh from a power perspective, right? So it looks like Xbox is kind of just playing into.
It's not a hardware refresh. It's like a
exactly.
Yeah, it's like a design refresh, kind of. I don't know.
It's design refresh, and I know the die's smaller. They talked about a smaller sock, right, and stuff like that. But that's pretty common, right? That's not like an upgrade. It's not a Pro. It's not a it's not the extra power like we saw with the One X, right? So, but it's pretty set from what I've seen and understand that PS5 or Sony is releasing an upgraded PS5 next year. The leaks on that are very, what I would consider valid, people I would trust, right? So I think that's coming. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see if Xbox doesn't. Maybe they do. The prior rumor was that Xbox's upgrade, the One X, whatever, the next upgrade, was actually 2025. So it's going to be a year later, kind of like the Pro and the One X was in 2016 and 2017. We may still see that. I don't know, of course. But if they don't, it's going to be kind of interesting to see how the market reacts to a refreshed Series X with kind of the same hardware as today for the most part, versus like a PS5 Pro that would then take the power crown in the console space. So it'd be interesting.
I think it's a very small market if the Xbox Series S numbers are correct, which I think they are. I don't think the average person. I think there's a very small plurality of people who are even really interested in that high end stuff or have the television display that can support it, and that sort of people are buying all Switches and Series S's. I think that's what I learned this week. There's not a whole lot.
And as you said, Ains, for people that don't know, all the information that we're talking about in this section was accidentally put up by Microsoft as part of their court filings in the FTC case. So there's no guarantee of completeness, right? The absence of something out of this list does not mean it doesn't exist.
Correct. And all of this is from 2022, right? So
yeah,
this
I think it's good for people to see how long the runway is for planning major mass consumer products. But what people will also see probably when these things come out is that this stuff, these specs, a lot of these might be just wish list items, and that they might not appear when the actual product makes it to market.
Correct.
Or they might appear in a very different way.
Yep. Absolutely. It's all subject to change. And it's funny you talk about runway, because that's where I was going next, Hogue. So I think I mentioned when in June, I talked to Jason Ronald, who is the director of hardware at Xbox. Super nice guy. Seriously, super genuine. And, obviously he's not telling us what they're doing, right? But he was stressing the fact of like the runway, to your point, of these things is extremely long. And if you read through some of these documents, you can see the fact that they are 8 and 10 years out in terms of signing contracts and planning hardware and things like that. So here's the roadmap that leaked, right? And basically, I'm not going to get into all the details here, but basically, as you can see, right, today, which was early 2022 when these documents were kind of put up, is here's how they're kind of focusing on, if you look at the bottom line in particular, in Silicon, right, their hardware, they're talking about, if you read the documents, about having to sign with AMD in 2024 to be prepared for launch by almost 2029, right? So they're talking about contract negotiations 5 years in advance. And one of the things that I think is very interesting when you look at roadmaps like this in the console space is one of the things Jason kind of laughed about when people ask him, he said, is like, if PlayStation releases a Pro, are you guys going to respond? And he's like, we don't respond. He's like, this is years and years in advance planning, right? Sometimes those things line up between the companies and sometimes they don't, you know?
That's why you need those reunion agents out there taking data, right?
That's right. That's right. Corporate espionage. You got to do it, man.
Those are my favorite quests so far, anyway. So anyway, yeah, it is kind of interesting. The other thing that they really spoke about, right, is the next gen would start in their mind as of now, or as of last year, in 2028, and it would be a hybrid cloud and console approach. So as soon as people heard this, they're like, oh, God, here goes Xbox with the cloud again. But I think what's really interesting, if you went into the details, was there's a focus on AI and machine learning. That should be pretty obvious to anyone right about now. But if you look at this, don't panic, right, if you like your console, because even Xbox, if you look at this projection through 2030, so 7 years from now, they still see console being their biggest market. Even in 7 years, a decade from now, basically. So the interesting thing here, for me anyway, which I don't even know if I agree with, but I guess obviously they would know better than me, is I would expect the PC slice there to be larger, but they see as cloud first gamers starting to take over that PC market by the end of the decade, which I think is pretty interesting.
One thing that's interesting to note is that bottom piece also says multi-device gamers, right? So
yep.
I would probably be a multi-device gamer insofar as I use Game Pass on both my Xbox and my PC.
That's probably fair, yeah.
I never think of myself as terribly PC oriented. I'm certainly not PC first. So it's collecting things that are
that's true. Very
not
true.
just Xbox.
I mean, are we meant to interpret the lines as pieces of a pie, or is cloud supposed to be significantly higher than the other two? This chart.
No, pieces of a pie, I think, Travis.
That's just adding on to the total, right?
Yeah,
so
it's a total.
So, on the Y.
Ooh, I hate this chart. Oh my god, this is like bad.
This is Game Pass subscribers, right? So if you look at the left, that was kind of the point. They're hoping to hit around 40 million-ish this year, right, or fiscal year 2023, whereas they're hoping to hit up above 100 million Game Pass subscribers by 2030.
I mean,
okay.
Game Pass sticks don't exist now, right? I mean, give or take.
Yeah,
they don't. Yeah.
But that's one of the other hardware pieces that was talked about, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So
they definitely have a plan. I definitely. It's funny because there was a lot of speculation during the whole court proceedings of like, oh well, what did the CMA see that we don't know that made them worried of like, or what did the FTC see that made them worried there's going to be a monopoly? And now having seen it all, I'm like, yeah, there's no monopoly. There's no grand plan that's like super scary that's going to make them just have something that nobody else can possess. So I don't know. It's I guess that's comforting. No monopoly coming, guys.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. So they talk very clearly about all three markets, console, PC, cloud, kind of working together and being holistic, right, in their approach, which makes sense long term anyway, and leveraging the new hardware that comes into that. I'm not going to get into the weeds on this podcast, but if you go through the documents, there's some interesting commentary around how they're going to leverage cloud, right, and the technology in cloud that is being leveraged across all of Microsoft. So Nadella's vision is that you have four pillars all aligning together, and you can use that technology across divisions, one of which would be Xbox, right, in gaming. So it's kind of if you're a tech nerd like me and work in the space, it was very interesting to read through. But I wouldn't panic, I guess, is the easy thing to say. If you're a console gamer, you like playing on your Series X and PS5 and Switch, they're not going anywhere anytime soon. You're going to be okay.
The idea that the console is going to be like physically, it's going to get some of the power from your console physically and then some from the cloud is not a new idea. The Switch does that right now, and actually the Switch does like a lot of like pure cloud plays or stuff where it's using part of your hardware and then the cloud with it. So the technology is proven, exists, and also is the only way that you're going to have a more powerful machine without spending $12,000 on your console. So like, you know what I mean? That I feel like that
$1,000, Travis.
Yeah, I know you don't. Nobody
You
does.
had me at 10, but 12, that's pushing it.
12, yeah, it's pushing it. Yeah, so I think that's the only way you can have a console market in the future is through cloud computing, or at least some assistance from cloud computing. So it doesn't strike me as super crazy. I am one of those people who thinks that like everybody who says, oh, you know, having native hardware is going to be a thing of the past because we're all just going to be living off of cloud computing for everything we do. So people have been saying that to me since like 2015 that was going to happen the next year, and it hasn't. And I'm kind of one of those guys who thinks everybody thinks that's going to happen sooner than it actually is going to happen. But I do think cloud computing is already a proven thing in gaming, and it works and helps. There's already probably games that you play that rely on some cloud compute for part of their processing. I've seen some games do it for like AI. The AI logic will come from cloud computing, and then everything else from local hardware. So I wouldn't freak out about that in general. I think Microsoft knows that the cloud is going to be a big part of their future.
Yeah, well, it has to be.
The other thing I would add there, since Travis just said knows, is that I don't think people are necessarily used to getting this kind of peek behind the curtain. And so this kind of stuff is happening all the time. These PowerPoint presentations, these board reviews, these are happening all the time. And all of these big companies have to have a vision of the future. You can't set up these projects and can't decide on these things now unless you have a certain kind of notion of what the future looks like.
Yep.
And what I would add to that is that even though they're big corporations and they're well-paid people and they're very smart and they have MBAs and PhDs and whatever else they've got, they're all still human beings. And Sony's got a plan too, and Xbox has a plan, and Nintendo has a plan, and they're all going to look a little bit different. And probably everybody is going to be a little bit wrong because nobody can actually predict the future. So when you look at these plans, this is what they think is going to happen. That's not a guarantee. Even they know that in the room. It's just their best guess, and that's where they're going to put their money and their effort. But they thought there was a plan for the Xbox One generation, and it didn't work.
Well, that wasn't a cloud thing. That was like an always online.
Oh, I didn't say
he just means the plan for the delivery of the system and what it would do in the marketplace.
They had intelligent people thinking through the issues. They thought about them wrong.
Yeah. Yep.
True.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, that's kind of what Jason was stressing, right? They're planning 8 to 10 to 12 years out. And to your point, you're going to make mistakes. You'll get some things right. You'll get some things wrong. It's just, it's the nature of it. But I agree with what you said as well, Travis. The whole kind of cloud supportive computing power is already here. It's been here for a little while now. It'll continue to improve, right, over time, like everything. And I wouldn't just panic around, cloud gaming is going to kill your console. That's not anytime soon.
It'll make your console even better.
Yeah, probably. Pretty much. Yeah. There's some other stuff in here.
The console race.
Yeah. There's some other stuff here. Like I said, if you're really into the the tech side of this stuff, there's some other stuff like this around AI, machine learning, and where they're going to, kind of play in that space in different ways. That's all out there. So you can look that up and check it out. It's pretty good.
NLP dialogue generation. That one.
Yep. Natural language. That's literally what I work in. It's that market is pretty crazy right now, as you can imagine, with AI. Anyway, the last thing, which is kind of the most exciting, I thought, was fun, which was weird of these leaks, is that Bethesda games leaked. Not Xbox games, but Bethesda games leaked. So we now know
there was a lot of stuff in that court case about the comparison between what they did with Bethesda and what they were going to do with Activision. Yeah.
Gotcha. So as of this 2022, like we said, the plans were Oblivion and Fallout 3 are getting remasters. The next Doom is coming. It's called Doom Year Zero, and it will have expansions just like the other Dooms, modern Dooms before it. This, I think the most surprising to me was they're making a sequel to Ghostwire Tokyo. I didn't feel like that game did tremendously well. I liked it, but hey, why not? I guess we'll see who does it, right? Because Tango, I don't know if Tango's still doing it or someone else. Dishonored 3 is coming. I know a lot of people will be happy about that. Dishonored's one of those franchises that a lot of people love. And then Indiana Jones seems to be further along than we thought, because as of last year, they expected that game to launch this year. So obviously it's not in early production. I would say it's at least in mid-production, depending on if anything's changed, obviously. But kind of interesting
that this year, folks. I can pretty much guarantee that.
No,
had a COVID
year,
at least
not
for all of these.
Yeah.
What if it did though? What if they shadow dropped it at the Game Awards?
Shadow drop Indiana Jones?
Yeah.
I remember people thought they were going to do that with Dial of Destiny in the summer. They're like, oh, it's coming out this year. And I'm like, you guys are crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Oh man, but yeah, I'm excited about this. I mean, these are all good games to me. I really wish that I know you're like me, Travis. I really wish that said Morrowind instead of Oblivion, like a Morrowind remaster. Oblivion in my
Fallout. I wish that Oblivion said Morrowind, and I wish that Fallout 3 said Fallout New Vegas.
Vegas.
Really the wrong son died.
Yeah, Oblivion didn't do it for me like Morrowind and
I like
Oblivion. Those are straight up numbers plays, right? Fallout 3 and Oblivion are their big sellers.
Yeah.
Well, Skyrim's their biggest seller, but you don't need to remaster Skyrim.
Right,
so.
but
they already did it.
Been down that road with Skyrim.
Yes, exactly. Yep. Fallout 3, I did like, at least as I can remember. I liked it more than 4, so I am glad to hear about that at least.
Fallout 3 is a good game. Oblivion is a good game. I will definitely be replaying both of these. It's just more like which games need a remaster more, or like a remake or something. And I don't know, man. New Vegas is goated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, New Vegas is one of those kind of cult classics. People adore that game.
Is it a cult classic? I feel like it's just a classic.
No, I think it's
that's
classic.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that there's a huge audience out there calling New Vegas a classic. I think the hardcore gamers like us say it's a classic.
Probably a Matthew Perry fan base somewhere that's just like that's their mecca, but I don't know.
Oh man. So anyway, that's there was other stuff to the leaks too. There's emails, there's Phil commenting on things like Nintendo and Valve, and there's all kinds of stuff you can dig through there that's interesting. But
I think the emails are the most fun, but I love
emails are great, dude.
I love listening to executives talk at each other.
Yeah, the funniest thing about the emails to me, I don't know about you guys, but having worked kind of in the space, right, with leadership like that, is I think some of the people who either aren't in the corporate world or haven't seen this kind of stuff before were really shocked at these emails. And I'm like, these aren't surprising at all. These are just emails.
No.
These are how people talk.
What was surprising was the candor and politeness of emails, because my emails would have been hella different, dude. I hope my emails never get leaked.
You know who's not on those PCs? General Counsel, because General Counsel would have been, let's take this offline, gentlemen. That's the exact response in the email.
Yeah,
because like for example, there was a lot of hay made about the "we should buy Nintendo" email, and like my reading of that email was somebody on the board of directors said to Phil, "Hey, why don't we just buy Nintendo?" You know who doesn't know anything about the games market, and then Phil super politely was like, "Yeah, of course we would want to buy them eventually, but here's my super nice diplomatic way of being like, nah, that can't happen anytime in the near future." Like that's how I read it. But a lot of people were like,
our calls.
Exactly. That's kind of what he said. He was like, they have a lot of money. They don't need us. And a lot of those, I mean, again, Ains, you kind of said it best. Like, if you have any understanding of the corporate world, like you got that Phil was saying in 300 words, no, like you don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We were on cast. We had cast co-op on Thursday, and someone was challenging me saying, but Phil literally made a pitch to buy Nintendo. And I'm like, no, he didn't. Like you're reading that all wrong. That's not what happened here.
No, my favorite email correspondence was his internal communication to his people when the release schedule fell apart.
Yes.
That was great.
I just really like that, because I know so many CEOs and executives would read the freaking riot act at their people on that email, and he's clearly pissed. Like, you can get that, but he refuses to kind of pass the buck in a way that I think is useful for leadership. Now, that doesn't prove anything until they actually get a cadence that works, and we've talked about that a lot in this space. But I did like seeing that in action, because I unfortunately know a lot of executives that wouldn't be as genteel in that circumstance.
Yeah, I think it gave me confidence, and Phil spent that the right person is in charge over there, even though they're not always the greatest company to be playing their games on. Which I'm an Xbox gamer, so I deal with that a lot. My favorite one was the clip about where he was talking about what happened to AAA gaming after the decline of retail. Did any of you guys see that?
Mm-mm.
It's like oh man, that's a great one. It was basically him explaining like the tough situation AAA companies are in versus the indie market and his sort of read on that. And I think it's like 3 or 4 paragraphs, and I was like, oh my god, this is so juicy. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, there's one about studio closures he comments on. I mean, there's just a lot that was shared this week.
Oh my god,
yeah.
it was just a treasure trove. I know everything Xbox is going to do for the next 10 years. It's nuts.
Well, what they thought they were going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this is going to come to pass, but you at least like the main thing that you definitely know that you didn't know before is you now know what their vision of the future is and why it kind of can explain some of the decisions they're making, because now you know what their end goal is, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and by the way, just a point of clarity, Shane points out on Hoeg's channel, which he's correct about, he or she's correct about, which is that the game list, the other stuff leaked 2022, the game list was from a presentation from 2020. So that's why things have probably shifted so much.
I don't think that. I don't trust that game list at all. Even if Bethesda shared that list officially today, I'd still be like, I don't believe you. I don't think that's going to actually come out when you think it is.
Yeah, but we have an Elder Scrolls 6 teaser. I mean, that's coming soon, right?
Dude,
that was that one day when they decided to tell us about Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6. Like, that is just not what Bethesda does the rest of their lives.
It's because they were trying to hire people. I have no doubt.
I think it was because Starfield was so leaked. They just wanted to make sure that they got the name out, and then they didn't have anything to show for Starfield, so it was a big shiny object next to it. Right, the Starfield teaser with just like the picture of the eye is the same day as the Elder Scrolls 6 word in the sky.
Yep.
I honestly think that they were trying to hire people. Like, hey, are you one of the many developers who loves Skyrim or even started your career because of Skyrim? Well, now we're hiring for this project and Starfield, and I don't know. I know that's like I've heard from developers that's why they announce games too early sometimes, is because it's helpful for recruitment.
Interesting. Googleman, €5 just says thanks for the scoops.
Ice cream emoji. Awesome.
Yeah, ice cream emoji.
To be clear, Season Gaming did not leak these documents.
We would have if we could have, though.
Yeah, not a Season Gaming scoop necessarily.
Hey, leave our scoops alone.
That's your American court system at work, folks.
Yeah. Yep. Well, technically, it wasn't really the court's fault, but yeah,
it was. The link was unsecured.
The court didn't secure. I thought it was supposed to be a public-facing link, and Microsoft didn't understand that.
My understanding was that the link that they were uploading to was supposed to be a secured one that wasn't secured, and that they had a public and non-public version of those documents, and the wrong one got up somehow into the unsecured link. Whoever's fault that is, it probably falls on Microsoft's the most, but the court definitely didn't help them.
Okay, my understanding was that Microsoft didn't understand that was a public link, and they uploaded the private version to the public link, and then it went public for everybody for at least a little bit. But yeah, either way, I think it's a lawyer's fault.
Case. I mean, that's just what happens. This is why they don't want to be involved in lawsuits. They don't want to be filing documents. Is that it's just the nature of humanity to get this stuff out, to make mistakes, however it is.
Yeah. So if you ever believe in conspiracy theories where you think like the government has like orchestrated something, just remember the incompetence of really smart people and their inability to keep things secret. And I find that comforting personally.
Yeah, very fair. Pompa with the $5 super chat asks, does this give competitors any advantage with these leaks?
Hell yeah.
Advantages with these leaks.
Absolutely. It does.
Yeah, planning wise, you know what they're aimed at, you know who they're likely to try to contract for, you know what you need to negotiate if you need that capacity. I mean, one of the things you saw in 2020 was that there was manufacturing capacity issues with things like the chips that the two consoles were using. So if you can frame out the timing that they're aimed at and what they need, that helps you in your manufacturing negotiations. There's no question.
Yeah, you also learned about their profitability. You learned how much money they're spending to get games on Game Pass on day one. I mean, there's like a lot of strategic, and we know that Sony is a very aggressive, or what Microsoft described in the courtroom as a hostile competitor. and they're very aggressive with like paying to keep games off of Xbox. And I think now they're in a better position to continue doing so, knowing how much Xbox is spending on certain games to get them on Game Pass.
Yeah, and I think that all of what you guys said, yes. And I would think that last point you made, Travis, is absolutely true, but will continue to evolve, right? As if they get Game Pass to the level that Xbox wants to get it to, once you start to get up into the 50, 60, 80, 100 million subs, the conversation is different, because then your power over publishers to say, hey, you're not just going to get 10 million people playing your game if you're on Game Pass, you're going to get 60 million people playing it.
Well,
conversation changes.
I think that's persuasive to developers, but I actually think that makes publishers less likely to sign up to Game Pass, because it means that more people are going to get the game without buying it. And so if you know that Game Pass has 25 million subs, then you know that the most you're going to give away is 25 million copies of that game. But if it were 100 million, then you have to wonder, okay, how much is this going to impact my bottom line? It might make getting games to Game Pass more expensive for Xbox. So it is definitely an interesting dance. I don't really know what the future is going to be, but we know the model works because obviously Netflix and every other subscription service out there is crushing it in the movie and TV space. So
yeah, and the to your point, the game, it'll depend on the game too, right? What type of game is it? How big is this game? What's the developer? To your point, yeah, there's a lot of factors that go into it.
I will say, if I had
to have to object to Netflix is crushing it.
Okay, well, they're crushing it financially.
I'm going to have to maintain my objection.
Really?
I don't have a versus here that'll fit, I don't think.
Sorry. I also don't feel strongly enough to defend Netflix's profitability. I'm just saying generally we know the model works because subscription services are doing well. But the I was going to say, if I had to choose between the two models, one where PlayStation gets its way and takes a game and puts it exclusive on their platform versus Xbox's model of putting their game day and date on Xbox Game Pass, which seems to be like their equivalent of that. I do like Xbox's model better because it means that more players get to play it, and they have like a model that almost seems like it's more pro consumer. Maybe, I mean, it's obviously pro them, that's why they're doing it, but it has coincidentally is also more pro consumer versus PlayStation's version where fewer people get to play it when they win. When PlayStation wins, fewer people get to play it. When Xbox wins, more people get to play it, and it's more accessible. And so I think that's kind of an interesting dynamic. If I have to pick a winner there, I'll say I hope Xbox wins more of those deals. But it's interesting to see their differing business models and just how much they are fighting.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. One thing we know for sure is we'll have plenty to talk about for the future. Game Positive, thank you, Bomb. Eric says 279 Canadian says can't stay, but wanted to say I love you all and F the Pats.
Agreed.
Funny, I got dyslexic for a second there, and I read it as "f you all," and I was like, "Well, that's an
whoa."
He would probably say that as well, but
from Game Positive, "f you all."
Eric, thanks.
Ironic, yeah.
Thank you.
And then Sid with 100 rupees says, "Adorably all digital, huh? I certainly adore my RRR Blu-ray more than my Netflix sub."
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I have a problem with the people who are hammering on this. I don't think that's the. Can we agree that disc trays and whenever they're incorporated in devices, they are hideous?
No,
I'm not sitting here fighting for physical. I'm just saying Netflix is not the most well-run.
Okay, I'm not saying that. I get that Ains is going to fight. But I'm saying I think the adorably all digital was them saying it's cute because it can look cute because it doesn't have a disc tray, and disc trays are hideous. And I would say. That is 100% true. Disc trays are gross looking. They make you have to make a boxy, stupid design. And the fact that they don't have to do that means that this console can look adorable. I think that's a fair.
Okay.
That's a fair.
You don't have to make a boxy design. Look at. And I also think the Series X is a better looking.
Tell me one.
That has a cartridge or disc tray. You're saying every console that's been made is square?
Tell me every disc tray that doesn't have an ugly design.
Series X.
Ugly.
I mean, it's not ugly. It's awesome looking.
Box. It's gross.
It's industrial. Looking. No, it's not gross looking. It's better looking than the Series X. Than the Series S.
The Series S is more adorable.
The Series S is cute.
I don't care if my console's cute.
Well, they do. That's why it's called Adorably. We're arguing about the inclusion of Adorably here, okay? Not having a disc tray.
That's not what you said.
That's what they said. Adorably. I'm talking
Adorably
about
all
the
digital.
aesthetic.
Yeah.
I'm saying that they've included the name Adorably because they said
you
it can have a better aesthetic. And
I get it, but you were saying that's what they said. You said that every console with a disc tray is boxy and ugly, and I'm saying that's not true.
I still haven't named. You still haven't
Dreamcast.
named one without a disc tray. Oh my God, that's a hideous console. All those.
All right, we're done here. We're done here.
I know you like Bitcast. Come on,
we're done here.
I do think you can have more fun form factors without the disc tray. I'm going to side with Travis.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, of course, yeah.
I think that was their point in Adorably, and people are taking that and saying, "Oh, they're anti-physical media." That's not what that was about at all. It was like we don't have a disc tray, so we can have fun with the design. Like it gives you more freedom. That was my takeaway from that inclusion of Adorably. I think people are attacking it for the wrong reason. That said, your RRR Blu-ray is stupid, and I hope physical media dies.
It is not stupid because 4K Blu-rays have a better picture quality than your streaming bullshit anyway. So it's better to have the disc.
Apologies. What is RRR in this?
It's a movie. It's a movie. Why are we sitting here? Yeah, it's a movie.
Okay. Is that,
you're just staring at me. I'm like, it's a movie. I don't know what else you want me to say.
I mean, does it stand for something? It's just the 3 letters.
I can't remember. It's on Netflix, which I think is why Sid brought it up. It is an Indian movie, but it became kind of worldwide famous because of its action, from what I understand. I've only seen the trailer. I haven't watched it yet, so I don't know. But
I didn't know.
So my problem with the streaming versus physical disc conversation is that they are not equivalents at all. The equivalent of a physical disc in the digital world would be you download the movie and watch it off of a SSD, and if you do that, you will get way better results than a Blu-ray.
No, you don't.
No, you do.
No, you don't.
You're talking about streaming.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I mean, if it were downloaded the same data as what's on the Blu-ray, it's going to be the same, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why you said much better results. No, it's not.
Yeah, better results is you don't have to go get a physical disc. That is better
results than streaming.
Better results in streaming.
Oh, better results in streaming. Yes.
My point is if they're equivalent, why would you ever pick to have the disc? The disc is,
the disc can only be scratched.
Because you can resell it.
Yeah, people do that all the time for 13 cents at GameStop. I'm sure. Blockbuster Video. Where are you selling these discs?
Hey, as someone that worked at Electronics Boutique and had to take all those discs, people were using that a lot.
I literally sell games. I sell physical games still today on Macari.
If you're reselling your games, more power to you. I still think you're selling, you're backwards, basically. You're living in the past. And I hope that your technology dies.
You're back.
Thank you.
For it. Yeah.
Travis, the advocate for choice.
I'm an advocate for good choices. Progress faster than science is impossible.
Well, no dictator has ever said or not said I'm an advocate for good choices.
Sometimes
my choices are good choices. Yours are not.
Look, I'll give you an example. Vaccines. Are you an advocate for choice, or do you think people shouldn't be able to choose?
It depends on the situation, but I mean, the science is clear behind vaccines.
There we go. The science is clear. Digital is better. So. My point is sometimes people need to take their medicine, and I think physical media
is
an
example. Did you see that Season Gaming Bitcast where YouTube demonetized everyone? That
was crazy. Oh my god, we went from Blu-rays to vaccines. That's a jump there, my friend.
No, I'm a digital gamer and I stream my movies for the most part, but I would pay good money for someone to invent a better codec for black levels. There's no question.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. And I stream, obviously, right? We all do. We stream a ton of stuff. But if there's a movie that I truly love, right, that I'm going to watch multiple times, I always buy the 4K disc because the quality is just the best.
I will say this. When it comes to movies, the argument for physical is much better because their model is better. You buy a physical Blu-ray and they give you a copy of the digital version.
They do give you digital too,
which is nuts. So you have no reason to buy the digital version. I'm mostly talking about video games where I think that people who buy physical media are getting grifted, but
And it's funny. Well, we're not going to stay on this, but it's funny because I say the physical guys would say you're getting grifted buying digital.
Yeah, I think those people are uninformed.
Because one, there are digital games that have been taken away.
There are
and
physical
two,
games that have been taken away too. But the same thing nowadays.
true, but two, you have actually something of value in physical you don't have in digital. That's night and day.
Okay,
you
but
literally
what
have
about-
something you can resell. Period.
Okay.
There's no argument against it.
Yeah, but there's a better benefit in digital. I'm not saying
What's the better benefit?
The fact that you can have 2 copies of the game by buying it once, and you can't do that with physical disc. You have to share it. That's way worse.
You're talking about game sharing.
Yeah.
Okay, but
every game I buy, I can play it, and so can D, and we can play it together on the same copy. You get 2 copies for the price of 1. That's a benefit physical doesn't have. And I say you can take your resale potential and shove it up your butt because digital has way better benefits.
Yeah, but what happens if I don't have someone I share games with? That doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, and what happens if you don't sell your games because you're not a hobo reseller with a shopping cart running down the street selling to That's weird. Who sells their games?
I want to be on your side here, but you keep going into ad hominem attacks.
I know he keeps going all over the place.
I'm just talking shit. But my point is that like selling things doesn't matter to me. And so that argument to me is just like, all right.
Yeah, so the value for digital is better for you. The value for physical is better for me. Simple.
Yeah, I think you're ripping yourself off some of the value. But
See, he can't agree, Hogue. He just can't let it go.
It's one of those mornings for Travis. It's fine.
Oh my God.
I'm just talking shit, guys. I don't mean any of this.
Shane G with the 1.99 super chat says day one Game Pass prices were insanely high. Correct me if I'm wrong, Shane, but I think what was shown were estimates. I don't think they showed what was actually paid. I could be wrong, but I think he's talking about on the leak. There were prices listed as to what they would have to pay to get that game on Game Pass on day one. Yes, but I think that was the speculation.
Yeah. The leak I saw was the strategy memo, which is where you get like 300 million for Jedi Survivor.
Yes.
Probably reflective of what Electronic Arts was asking for Game Pass inclusion for their other games, would be my guess. It didn't reflect a number that was quoted to them as best I could tell from what I saw in that document.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Yeah, but you're right, Shane. They were crazy for sure. You mentioned Star Wars Jedi Survivor, by the way. It did come out just yesterday, I think, officially. What's the guy who plays Cal, his actor?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Joker. That's
Joker
Monahan. It's somebody Monahan.
Oh, he said on. Did you see? He said on stage yesterday, which we already knew, but he said, "Yeah, we're working on the 3rd game." So
without their creative director, right? So
yeah, he leaked that. He leaked that like he shouldn't have said it, right? Like it wasn't
probably shouldn't have, but
right? Yeah,
it wasn't. No.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shane, for the super chat. And Debbie W with the $10 super chat. Good morning. I've been listening to previous Bitcast episodes while dealing with a sinus infection and its best friend, raging migraine this week. Thanks for keeping me company this week. Love to all. Debbie, sorry to hear that. That sucks.
Dang,
yeah.
Debbie.
I hear you.
Yeah, that's rough.
That's crazy that people binge us. Are we bingeable?
That's crazy. I don't know. I feel like I should apologize.
Yeah, no, I feel like, dude, I can't even deal with 3 hours a week or however many we do this. How the heck are you? That's
awesome, then, Debbie. Thank you.
Considered maybe we're the reason you have a migraine.
It is possible. I think. Travis,
is it getting worse? Thank you, Debbie. Appreciate you. Hope you feel better soon. Seriously, that's a bad combination right there. So guys, I wanted to touch on Tokyo Game Show, and funny enough, there's some Game Pass news in here as well, and some exciting stuff I know we're pumped for. But out of Tokyo Game Show, there wasn't really a lot of kind of big things that I was hopeful for, but some cool announcements. So we learned that Octopath Traveler 2 is coming to Xbox in early 2024, which is just, again, more people get to play the game. That's cool. We get Like a Dragon, Gaiden, the man who erased his name. That title's crazy. It's launching day one on Game Pass, so it's coming to all platforms, but it's launching into Game Pass on November 9th, which is cool. Like a Dragon, Ishin is coming to Game Pass later this year. I believe Ishin is the one that re-released earlier this year, right?
Yeah,
like it was a remake of the old one.
Yeah.
Yes, which I bought, and I literally have it. I haven't played it even a minute. And then Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, which of course is the sequel we've all been waiting for, is releasing on January 26th. And I could not be more excited for this one, guys. Like a Dragon was probably my favorite JRPG in a very long time. I love that game.
I love that game too. The Yakuza series, I've played most of them, but they don't really connect with me. super hard. Like I'm not like Dan on them where I'm like super into that world, mostly because I have a hard time with reading subtitles for 40 hours. But Like a Dragon, like I'm now diehard. Like I'm gonna play every single that friend. Like if Ichiban's in it and it's turn based, like I'm there. And I will say I've been a little worried by the previews that only have Japanese. I'm really hoping that they'll also dub this one because that made it a lot more accessible to me. Because if you're spending like hundreds of hours or like 80 hours in a game and you have to read subtitles all the time, I've at some point I got exhausted by that. I just have to turn it off.
I gotta believe they'll dub the newest.
I hope so. I hope so too.
Yeah, especially I think with the success of the last one, right? I mean, it's going to be a big game. I also love the time frame here. I love that it's releasing late January. At least as of right now, it's a pretty clear calendar for the start of 2024, right? So
that late January slot is nice. There have been a lot of good successful games right then.
100%. So I'm hopeful for this one. They did not say this one's coming to Game Pass, so it's probably not at launch, but obviously given everything else going on, you know, it probably wouldn't surprise to see this come later. And then I know Travis is pumped about this one. Xbox announced that Phoenix Wright, the Ace Attorney trilogy, is coming to Xbox Game Pass and PC Game Pass on September 26th, which is literally Tuesday. It's coming Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then Apollo Justice, which you can tell us about this in a second, Travis. Apollo Justice is another trilogy which will arrive on Xbox and Windows in early 2024.
It's Ace Attorney 4, 5, and 6. It's just a different main character.
It is. Well, there's a different main character in some of them. At least one of them.
Okay.
Yeah. But those games are great. So the original trilogy is awesome. I feel like playing it on Xbox is the worst way to play it because it's a visual novel, and for me, visual novels are better like on a phone or a portable device. Where
you could play it on xCloud though on your phone.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. So I did play it on Xbox. I got every achievement. It's a fine way to play the game. It looks great. It does all the stuff you need to do. And then the Apollo Justice announcement is awesome because 4, 5, and 6 are amazing games, like so good, and I've been looking for an excuse to replay them, and getting all the achievements for all 3 of those games on the Xbox version, like I'm there, man. I'm playing that in January for sure. Very excited.
So is Phoenix Wright the original trilogy and Apollo Justice is 4, 5, and 6?
Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Do you need to play 1, 2, and 3 to understand 4, 5, and 6?
No,
they all connect a lot, but
they all connect a lot, but the Phoenix Wright, the series does a really good job of like never referencing what happened in the previous game as like they make the smallest references, but they try to keep like things vague so you can understand it. So my first Phoenix Wright game was actually number 5. I reviewed it for some reason. They were just like review number 5. And that was my first experience. And I went back and played the other 4 and then eventually 6 when it came out. But I think you can play them in whatever order, but certainly the best way to play them is 1. The only problem is some people have a hard time with playing 1, 2, and 3 because they are extremely old and they have some design problems in playing that. So I actually recommend when I'm trying to convince people to do it, I always say play Dual Destinies because it's a more modern game. It came out in like not that long ago and it feels more modern. And then if you love that game, then you can go back and play 1, 2, 3, and 4. But yeah, you could play them in whatever order. But I would definitely recommend chronology.
Yeah, I mean the interesting thing, Travis is exactly right. They do need to reference prior events. They do it a lot. The characters are related to each other. But the one thing you'll definitely notice if you play them in order, or even if you don't, is that they will, whenever they get to the part where they would explain what the mystery was or what the solve was or who was guilty or who wasn't, it'll kind of just get really vague.
Yep.
It's a little bit tricky to understand what they're talking about sometimes, but they don't want to give you the answer to a prior case that they've done.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, who knows, Travis? Maybe this will finally get me to play it more than the couple hours I put into the Switch one I bought. We'll see.
Yes, the one that you bought is actually a spin-off. I just had you. I suggested you buy that one because it was the newest one and it has like,
Is
it's
he playing
like very
Great Ace?
accessible. Yeah, he's playing Ace, the Great Ace Attorney. Which those games are great, but that's a duology that is completely separate from the main Ace Attorney trilogy. I'm also surprised that saga rather. I'm also surprised that they're describing 4, 5, and 6 as a trilogy because originally there was the original Phoenix Wright trilogy, and then there was 4, which sort of feels like its own game. And then they were going to do 5, 6, and 7. And so I thought it was two trilogies connected by a middle game. And it seems like they're rebranding it now where it's 2 trilogies, but 6 ends on a cliffhanger. So I'm like, is there going to be 7, 8, and 9? Like, are you committing to 3 games? Because I thought that 7 would be the final chapter in the the Apollo Justice trilogy. And it seems like they're really rebranding the timeline here. So I don't know what the future of Ace Attorney is like, and they will not tell us. Last Ace Attorney game was like 2016. It was like a long time ago, man. So I've been waiting for a sequel here.
Okay. Well, this is still cool. Good news, especially with the first trilogy being on Game Pass. More people will obviously play it. So that's good.
Everyone should play it. Play it, man.
It's great. Okay. Just don't take your understanding of the justice system from it.
I think you should in Japan. If you're in Japan, apparently.
Yeah, I've heard once you beat that trilogy, you can actually be a lawyer. That's what I heard.
Did I tell you the story, Hogue, where I have another gamer buddy who's also a lawyer, and he told me that he practiced in Japan, and he was like, honestly, it's not really that different from the Japanese legal system. I was like, what? He's like, yeah. So there's weird, like in the American version, the localized version, they make the setting in Los Angeles, and it's like it's kind of like an alternate reality version of America, where post World War II we didn't do internment in California, and the culture kind of went like they created like a whole alternate timeline for the American translation of Phoenix Wright. And so it feels like sci-fi, and okay, the legal system got corrupted at some point. And then in the Japanese version, this is just what I'm hearing from people who've played the original Japanese version, it's just sort of like depressing, because it's this them going, no, this is us criticizing the Japanese legal system as it exists today. And so some Japanese gamers play the American version because it's like a little less attached and kind of more fun and whimsical. But yeah, I love Phoenix Wright, man.
It is very fun and whimsical.
One of the best stories ever told in games, bar none.
Whoa. Okay.
Well,
okay.
Hogue,
we're gonna move on from that one.
You don't get it, man.
A couple other things. So Capcom showed off a big thing. They showed off was Dragon's Dogma 2. With 10 minutes of footage, and people seem to be raving about that. I am not the expert on Dragon's Dogma. I know that's another kind of cult classic, one that people have loved for a very long time and super excited about too. So this was cool. And then Phil Spencer did just tease from an Xbox side that he's meeting with Kojima this week, I guess, to continue checking on the project, whatever they're working on, for Xbox. So who knows? It'll be weird. I'm sure of that.
Yeah.
It will be weird.
Yes, for sure. All right, guys. Debbie followed up, by the way, one more super chat from Debbie, $5 super chat. She said, to be fair, I started with the Forza Horizon 5 episode. Thank you for all your work with the bonus boards, Travis. I greatly appreciate it. So that's going back. That's late 2021.
That's
Forza
crazy.
Horizon 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I reviewed that.
Yeah, you reviewed it, and I did their map for the IGN Wiki, so I found every collectible bonus board and fast travel board, which is that game is awesome. What a great game! Game of the year. IGN.
All right, guys, it's time to have a little fun as we get to the late part of our episode here. We're going to go over our top 25 games of all time. Now, to be clear,
this isn't going to take an hour.
This is going to exchange. We're going through it. This is just for fun, obviously. And we're going to start with Travis because he's on the hot spot, of course. He loves this. Travis did say that these 25 are his definitive 25. No other game would ever move in and out of this. And he was purely 100% decided that these were permanent. They will never change. So let's start. Travis, walk us through. All
right, I'll do quick justifications because I don't want to. This is such a tough conversation for me to have, and I don't want to spend a bunch of time on it. Minecraft is the greatest game of all time. It is almost
favorite. Remember, we're talking favorite.
I mean, but when I say greatest, it's assumed that my opinion is in there. So I'm just going to say what I believe, and then you can assume that in my opinion follows every sentence. Minecraft is the greatest game of all time. Almost perfectly designed game, limitless creativity and potential. I've spent thousands of hours in that game, and I probably will play even more. Great game. Halo 2, Awesome game.
Legend.
One of the most transformative games when it comes to online play ever made, which I think is a thing to its credit. It's also one of those games that had a fantastic campaign and multiplayer that I feel like is rarer and rarer these days. Now there's really not many franchises that you really expect it to have a good campaign and also multiplayer. They kind of pick one or the other these days. So I think that's such a huge leap forward for the industry. Witcher 3, I don't even need to talk about that one. You get why it's one of the best
goes
games
without
ever.
saying.
Dark Souls inspired game design for generations, apparently, and also just one of my personal favorite games. I played that game back when people saw me playing it and went, "What is this game you're playing?" And I was like, "Oh, like nobody knows about this game, but it's really awesome." So I liked it before it was cool. #hipster. BioShock. I love this game. I'm a big politics guy.
He's a Randian. He loved Atlas Shrugged.
How dare you, sir? No, I think I really like the politics and the story and the themes in BioShock. One of the greatest cautionary tales of Randian objectivism ever told, I think. And also, I think it really reminded a lot of people that you can have adult themes and complex stories in games. And I think other games have followed that. So I think it had a huge impact on the industry. Knights of the Old Republic, I mean, this is BioWare at their best, in my opinion. I also just love Star Wars, so I'm kind of biased. That game changed my life. I was in high school when it came out. I think I was a freshman. Actually, I think I was in middle school. But it was a really good game.
Stop it.
Really good game. Really good game. Super Mario 64, what can you say? One of the greatest platformers ever made. I still go back and play this game every once in a while.
Also transformative for the industry.
So you're probably seeing a theme here, which is for me, games of the year or stuff like that. To me, it has to be something that really pushed the industry forward. And I think I could justify that each of these did that in some way. And that's also why they're so diverse. Like each of these games are different genres and different, they're just different types of games. But yeah, Super Mario 64, I just adore that game. And I love talking to Mark Medina about it because he's a speedrunner in that game still to this day, which is crazy. Morrowind, Bethesda game design at its best, I would say. It was that was back when their ambitions were beyond their reach, and I think that came in a really good form in Morrowind, and I think lots of their game design has been informed by that. So even if it's not cited as like the reason people design games in the way they do, I think that its DNA can be seen in all of Bethesda's games since, and I think that's super important. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is very similar. Their DNA is in a lot of games like that. I know people love Majora's Mask. I also love Majora's Mask, but to me, 90% of Majora's Mask is Ocarina. I think it's hard to separate that for me. So I just really like Ocarina. I think it's one of the greatest games ever made. Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, by my money, is the best visual novel ever made, and I think visual novels are awesome and more people should play them. I think that game kind of paved the way for visual novels to be mainstream, which I think is cool. Half-Life Alyx, greatest VR game ever made. Enough said. I get excited about the future of VR because of that game. I hope other games will start coming out in the near future that come close to that one, because it showed us kind of the way when it comes to making VR games. It showed us what they could be like and how they could be amazing masterpiece level experiences. Grand Theft Auto 5, love that game. Great story. The online multiplayer is some of the most fun I've ever had. I love satire of American culture, and I think this does it better than other games have. So that's my pick from the GTA vibe. Arkham City, great game. Enough said. I love the story. Getting Batman right in all the right ways was really good. Obviously, I love the first one, but I think the first one was a really good proof of concept to what Arkham City eventually was, which I think did most of that stuff better. Secret of Monkey Island. I love this game. Adventure games, again, this is one of the ones I think adventure games, it elevated that genre and made them, it inspired a lot of people to make adventure games, and I love adventure games. So Super Metroid, this is honestly on here because it was one of my first games ever, and it made me want to be a gamer. And I also think that I think it perfected the Metroidvania format that now lots of people have used. And I go back and play that game sometimes because I just love it so much. Doom, the original Doom, amazing.
Classic.
First-person shooter. I mean, if you don't know how that game impacted the FPS genre, basically invented it, which is awesome. And I again, that's another one I'll go back and play co-op with some of my friends just because it's great. Borderlands 2, I think Borderlands 2 deserves a lot of credit for looter shooters. And also for live service games, kind of. It was pre-live service, but it showed us why people would want to play a game for more than like the first year it was out. And I sunk hundreds, if not thousands of hours into that game. And I think a lot of the looter shooter, a lot of the like Destiny type games, and if you're into any game with a loot game in it, I think Borderlands 2 was probably an inspiration for that game. Fallout New Vegas I love, not because of its Bethesda bones, but because of its Obsidian bones and the fact that it does choice better than any game I've ever played to this day. It makes you feel like you have an impact in every possible way on every faction, and the outcomes are unique, and you could play that game 5 times in a row and have completely different adventures. And I think that's just really cool. It's small and condensed, and it does everything that it wants to do super well and makes you feel like you're, impacting the world, which is really cool.
Travis, what would you say to someone who proposes that all 5 versions of Fallout New Vegas are boring?
I would say that I don't know. I guess I just disagree with that. I mean, I get if you don't like the VAT system. I really like the VAT system and enjoy Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 for it. But I would say it basically does everything all the other Fallout games does, except for it has a legit good story with interesting decisions and factions. And you can kind of like, I've had deep philosophical debates with people about which faction actually has the best outcome in Vegas and creating the future. And I think there's a legit argument for any of the factions. Like you have to go pretty crazy to justify like the Legion, but you can get there if you're going for like stability and survivability and longevity. So yeah, I really like Vegas, man. I 100% of that game and all the expansions too. It's a great game. You don't like it, Hogue, huh? Not a big fan of Vegas?
I like Fallout 3 better than New Vegas, and I've liked Obsidian games for a while. I just thought New Vegas wasn't that interesting to me. I thought it would be better.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I really like that game. Pokemon Gold. I really like the Pokemon series. Obviously, they've inspired a ton of games in the future. Just going forward, obviously, the Pokemon or the monster collecting as a genre is starting to emerge, and actually, it's more than emerged. It's just a full genre now, and I think obviously that's owed to Pokemon. The reason I choose Gold over Red or Blue is Red or Blue to me, obviously very good blueprints, but I think Gold and Silver changed the game because that game actually has 2 games in it. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but after you beat the game, then you go to the original island from the original game and you play through all of that, and it just like totally blows you away with its end game. And I think that is just so awesome. Portal, I think you know why this game's great. It inspired a bunch of games. I love puzzle games. I almost put a different puzzle game, The Witness, on here, but I just
no! I'm glad you went Portal. Witness is.
You don't like The Witness?
Oh God!
Oh my God! The Witness is so good.
I like The Witness better than Portal. I do.
Oh,
yeah, I kind of agree with you, Hogue, that The Witness is better than Portal, but I think that The Witness kind of owes a lot of what it does to Portal, and I was kind of going for like the stuff that I think has pushed the industry forward, and I see Portal as kind of the progenitor for a lot of puzzle games, and I love Portal as a game. It's also a comedy game, which I think is that I lean toward comedy games. I love comedy games. So Hades, I think, perfected the roguelite genre, which I love that genre, and obviously there's lots of games coming out like it. It also, like a lot of games on this list, has a crazy post game where you can play it for like hundreds of hours and still find new stuff and new dialogue and new story beats. I think you have to beat the boss like 10 times just to get to the credits, and then after the credits there's like a ton you can do by doing additional playthroughs. Dishonored, I love. Pure stealth, amazing. The way the decisions you make in that game are about how you play it mostly. I mean, you make other decisions as well because you can get different outcomes in the ending, but like I love that you're always constantly actively thinking about how your actions are impacting the world, with not just dialogue choices at the end of a cutscene, but with like literally moment to moment gameplay. You're making decisions, and I think that hasn't been replicated since. Tetris, I love. It's kind of almost a perfect game. Like you can just play that for hours and hours.
Timeless.
timeless game. Like, just who doesn't like that game? Grim Fandango. This is sort of in the same adventure game genre, and also a comedy game like Monkey Island. But Grim Fandango just inspired a lot of my, like, I love the story and the world, and I also just wanted to get a Double Fine game on here, and I think this is one of their best games. And then Guitar Hero.
Now, Travis, Grim Fandango is a LucasArts game.
Oh, sorry, LucasArts. I was thinking because it's Schaefer, right? It is. Yeah, it is a LucasArts game, just like Monkey Island. So, yeah, thank you for pointing that out. I forgot about that. But I do love Grim Fandango, and that's another game I'll go back and play occasionally, just because it's a classic to me and special place in my heart. And then Guitar Hero, which doesn't seem like the type of game that I would play, but like what a vibe this game was. And obviously Rock Band I think is probably even better, but again, this is kind of the progenitor that kicked that whole wave off. I love games that use interesting and weird accessories. I was gonna put Dance Central on here, but honestly I feel like Dance Central, this was going to be Dance Central slot here, but I honestly just think Guitar Hero, Dance Central wouldn't exist without Guitar Hero, and I think Guitar Hero is more ubiquitous, and it speaks to a fantasy that everybody likes, and it uses peripherals in an interesting way. So I feel like that's got to go on one of like the greatest games ever. So this is my list.
I like it.
Cool. Yeah, I like it. Yeah. I like it. We share a few games. But nice. I think why I wanted to do this was it's just cool to see, because it brings back memories of a whole bunch of games that you haven't thought about in a long time. So let me go. I'll do mine because Hogue went with Hogue's notes in note form.
Yeah.
So at least mine is my picture form. And it goes without saying, there's a lot of things that can be moved in and out of this.
Nice.
So Witcher 3, we already said. No explanation needed.
There's 4 Halo games on your list.
I know. I did that on purpose. God. I did that on purpose. So BioShock, I think, is legendary. I think that game just does so many things well. I love it to death. Red Dead 2, as I've said many, many times, I still think that's the greatest.
This is in order, right? Like roughly?
No. Okay. Well, I mean, maybe the top 5 or to 10 maybe, but not really.
You think BioShock's the greatest game of all time?
No, that's what I mean. It's not in order. No.
Okay.
Red Dead 2, I think, still to this day has the best game world ever created. You can argue about certain things of the game, of course. Some people liked it, some people didn't, but I think game world, it still blows me away. Elden Ring is way up there. I think Elden Ring did things for the Souls genre, but also open world games that is just remarkable. I have like 400 hours in Elden Ring. I'm still discovering new things I missed. And new things that can happen in that game, as are other people. From a Souls perspective, I also love Souls 3, one of my favorites of all time. I think that's right up there. It's my second favorite Souls game behind Elden Ring, so that's on there. I'm running through these, as you can tell. Phantasy Star probably might be the oldest game on the list. I'm not sure. That is if you don't know Phantasy Star, it was the Final Fantasy from basically Sega at the time. And I think Phantasy Star 1 is better than Final Fantasy 1. It does a lot of things, independently. But that game, a lot of these games, my theme to Travis's theme was like you said a lot of these games not only have meaning for you, but move the industry forward. A lot of my games on this list are really like memories that I had with friends, with families or events or things like that. So Phantasy Star is one of those games for me. I still think Last of Us hit me in a way story-wise that is very meaningful. There's a number of reasons for that I won't talk about, but that story means an awful lot to me, so I love it. Super Mario World, I think, is kind of the pinnacle of 2D platformers. At least it was at the time. It's still up there as one of the greatest and one of the just games I can play endlessly just for fun. It's pure joy, that game. Gears of War 2. I'm a big Gears fan. I think 2 is still my favorite. I had so many ridiculous memories of the multiplayer in that game, as broken as it was. But the story itself is great too. And I back in the Gears 2 days, which was 2008, if I recall correctly, I actually played with people at Epic Games at the time, and I knew people that worked there, and it was just so many fun nights with that game. Mass Effect 1 goes without saying, the best Mass Effect game. We all know that. So that's an easy one. Great sci-fi universe, amazing BioWare game, one that I've replayed multiple times. Cyberpunk made the list. Now, as we talked earlier, we kind of already touched on that, so that's up there, and it's now given its state. Of course, I had to put 4 Halo games because it's me. So
are those in order? Are those Halo games in order? Because I have questions if so.
No, I think
surprising to me, there's not a driving game on here.
No, and I know I had a Forza on there. I had Forza 2 and Forza 4. I also had Gran Turismo 4 and Gran Turismo 2, kind of the similar 2 and 4. My favorites of both of those. But they
put
just
Mortal Kombat 2 on my list. Banjo-Kazooie is a good pick. I didn't even think about that. Banjo-Kazooie is a good pick.
Yeah. So no, Halo is just believe it or not, I already have 1,000 hours in Halo Infinite. So I play that all the time. 4, I think, has one of my favorite campaigns. 2 is legendary. You already covered that, Travis. It's absolutely legendary. And Halo CE, which just kind of blew the industry away and what an FPS could do on console. So
I had a hard time choosing between the two because
Yeah.
Halo and Halo 2 are both so iconic. But eventually went with 2 just because I think it had more impact on like
Agree.
the trajectory of games. Yeah.
Agree. Mortal 2, Street Fighter 2. I was a big fighting game arcade guy, played tournaments in both of these games. I love them to death. I think that 2 and 2 are still the best ones. Obviously, we've come a long way since those games, but they created a generation of fighting games, which is just timeless. Final Fantasy 2 and 3, otherwise known as 4 and 6, of course. I went with the American cover art here. Just games that had a tremendous impact on me as a kid on the Super Nintendo era. Those RPGs will always forever live in my mind as some of the all-time greats. Banjo-Kazooie, the superior game to Mario 64, as we all know. So
I mean, I'm not going to fight you that much on that one, just because honestly, like you said, my tilt is comedy games, and Banjo-Kazooie cracks me up every time I play it. I love that game.
Banjo is amazing. It's a classic, and I will continue to preach we need it to come back. I cheated a little bit here with the modern 2D Raymans, Legends and Origins. They are incredible, incredible platformers. I love platforming games, and they are 2 of my favorites. So there was a little art there with both of them, and I said, okay, I'm going to cheat and put both of them there. So
I would have picked Ori over those games, personally. I think Ori's the best modern platformer.
Ori is excellent. Yeah, it's a little bit different, right? More of a Metroidvania than a platformer per se, but yeah. Psychonauts 2, same thing I just said. Love platformers. Psychonauts 2 is freaking brilliant.
It was almost on my list too. Psychonauts 2 is so good.
It's so good. Did
you play Psychonauts 2, Hogue? It has a great story, right?
I did play Psychonauts 2. I only got about halfway through. I'm not a big... I don't vibe well with Tim Schafer's modern comedy.
What?
Okay.
Damn.
All right. Knights of the Old Republic.
This week, so I'll tell him to say that.
Knights of the Old Republic is a classic.
We're going to a mixer, IGN Double Fine mixer.
Well, you can tell him I helped kickstart Broken Age. I'm a fan of his. I haven't liked the modern stuff as much.
So did I, Hogue. I have the T-shirt and everything. I still have my copy.
I did. I'll tell him that to his face.
KOTOR is a legendary game. Probably my favorite Star Wars game, I would argue. Remembering that I'm not a gigantic Star Wars nut, but I adore that game.
KOTOR is the best Mass Effect game, obviously.
It's kind of fair. Prey is legendary to me too. It's the closest thing we've gotten to BioShock, and especially once you add Moon Crash to that conversation as a package, I adore Prey. I think it's a brilliant game. And then you already said Borderlands 2. I think Borderlands 2, to your point, is the perfection of the shooter looter genre. I still think 2 is better than 3. And 2 also had one of the best expansions of all time, an Assault on Dragon Keep. But it's just a game that is just, again, a lot of memories for me and my family. And
also a fantastic story, like surprisingly good story.
Yes, surprisingly good. Yeah. All right, we're going back in time, Hogue. We're moving on to yours with the notes. Hogue's notes are back.
Was I supposed to send pictures? I don't.
Yeah, I put the link to the site where you could do that.
Oh, sorry.
Where you can create it. No, it's fine. It's no big deal. I saw Prey on your list, so you're forgiven.
Yeah. So unlike I think some other approaches you might take to this list, I certainly wouldn't claim this is the best games ever. I basically tried to put representatives of all of the systems and eras and types of games that I like. So at the top, my favorite game of all time is Star Control 2, which, if you aren't familiar, is a way back progenitor to the Starfields of the world, where you find yourself with Earth captured by evil aliens, and you're the captain of a ship and have to go around to all the different stars and assemble an alliance to fight for the freedom of Earth in a comedy format that Travis would probably love. But Star Control 2 is fantastic. It still plays well. I think you can still play it for free. I think they have it open source on the internet still.
Oh.
But Star Control 2, I highly recommend. Final Fantasy 6 that you see there is Final Fantasy 3 from Ains list. That's the same game.
Yeah,
that's one of the best RPGs ever made. Witcher 3 We know Witcher 3. Alan Wake we've talked about. Travis doesn't believe it holds up. Alan Wake's one of my favorite games of all time.
Gameplay doesn't hold up. Alan Wake almost made my list because its story is so damn good.
One of the best stories in gaming history, I would say, as well as The Longest Journey. One of the things you'll see on this list is that I love narrative, and I really go for theming and role-playing in kind of like the purest sense, being in a role in a video game. The Longest Journey is an adventure game. You'll also notice from its position by Alan Wake that I apparently like Norse storytellers. It's from a company that made a number of games for Funcom before going off on their own and making Dreamfall chapters. And you might know some of these things that are in the Longest Journey universe. But it's an adventure game with a kind of common conceit of a magic world and a not magic world, and coming together and problems and the chosen one and these various things. But it doesn't play out how you would expect. And I think it's one of the best adventure games ever made. The Anno 1404 is my representative for the Anno games and strategy games on the computer. It's one of my favorite genres. We don't talk about it much here. But Anno 1404 is my favorite of the Annos. This is essentially setting up a little town and getting all the resources correct, and then going and finding other islands and competing with people for other resources to make longer and longer economics chains to keep your people happy and get them more wealthy and get your civilization better off. So if you don't know Anno, I couldn't recommend the Anno series more. I love them.
Hey, Hogue, is there, not to interrupt you, is there a better way to present this? So, like, can we, I'm going to play around for a second, guys. Here, hold on. I don't want to do that. Hold on.
Well, if you pick one of the options that puts the presented picture on the side, you should.
That's what I'm trying to do. Yeah.
So, like that one should work.
Let's see. There's a way to, no, you don't want to do that.
I just want to see you, Ains.
Yeah, you don't want that,
I
please.
just want to see his reaction to all of your games.
Hold on. There we go.
I should be able to present my window.
There we go.
Ah,
okay.
There we
thanks,
go. Try
Daddy
that.
Ains.
You got it. You got it. Now we can see Travis grimacing at all your picks.
My writing. Yeah.
Colony Wars.
Okay, so Colony Wars, right? So in the deep dark era of the PlayStation, there used to be a little bit more imagination and a few different types of games. So Colony Wars is a science fiction space shooter game, which you'll also see represented on this list a couple of times because that was one of my favorite genres before it died. And then Resident Evil 2, which is the best of the Resident Evils, and Resident Evil only kind of went off the deep end and went a different direction with Resident Evil 4. So I'm glad we're done with that remake so we can get back to Resident Eviling. Final Fantasy 7, I think everybody knows at this point. And certainly we didn't get a chance to talk about the Rebirth stuff, but maybe we'll talk about that next week. Wing Commander 4 is another space simulation game starring Mark Hamill and Tom Wilson of Back to the Future Biff fame.
Good game.
But it is one of my favorites. And I should mention that's another theme you'll probably see is I like the full motion video era. I like some of the ways that they were incorporated into games in the 90s. And so you'll see me represent that more than others.
So I love Wing Commander 3. I don't remember 4. I thought, wasn't 3 the pinnacle, or did 4 kind of top it?
You'll see Wing Commander 3 later in the list. Wing Commander 3 is the end of the Kilrathi War.
Okay.
Wing Commander 4 is dealing with the aftermath of that and has a better plot line, in my opinion. Certainly has a higher budget.
Okay.
XCOM, Terror from the Deep. You'll note the hyphen and between X and Com. It's the old XCOM. The original version of XCOM. It's the second game in which the aliens attack from under the oceans, which I really liked. I also found scary. Was one that worked for me. Soul Blazer is a Super Nintendo RPG that is different than anything that we have now, basically. Soul Blazer and Illusion of Gaia were both kind of in this slot.
Illusion of Gaia, yeah.
As being really imaginative. In Soul Blazer, you jump into people's minds and have to help them through whatever trauma they're experiencing in JRPG form. 999 is my entry into the visual novel side of things, despite Travis's admonitions that Ace Attorney is the best story in visual novel history. I think 999 probably is. 999 is a DS game. I think it's also available on like the Xbox and the PlayStation now, but I highly recommend it.
I don't think I've ever even heard of it, to be honest with you.
It's a good game. It's part of the Zero Escape series. Good games.
Yeah, if you're looking for it on the Xbox or the PlayStation, I think it's under the title The Nonary Games. I think it's the first 2 games in the series.
Okay.
Shadow of Destiny is a game nobody remembers except me, I think. It was a Konami release that had you jumping backwards and forwards in time to solve to solve a series of problems that you were having in a village. I don't want to give any more away. I mean, it's only 28 years old or whatever. I think it's called something else in Japan too.
That's okay. Fantasy Star is like, I don't know, 35 years old. So
yeah, Fantasy Star is a great pick. I probably would have picked 2 out of Fantasy Star.
Two almost made my list. Yeah, classic.
The Horde is a kind of early real-time strategy game in which you build up a village to fight off a monstrous horde that comes and attacks every once in a while. It has full motion video interstitials starring, I think, I want to say Kirk Cameron.
Kirk Cameron.
As he tries to take over the kingdom and fight against an evil Viscount.
Oh, man.
Shockwave 2 Operation Jumpgate is the second Shockwave game, which was popular at the time. Shockwave 2...
Can I put one thing I notice?
Yes.
Hogue, if you want to end up on Hogue's best games of all time list, give your game a subtitle, preferably a long one. If there's lots of jargon in there, if it's lots of words, numbers followed by an additional subtitle on it, really just make it as that's a pro tip out there, devs.
Well, I wanted to flag games that people might not know about, right? And so Operation Jumpgate is the sequel to a game in which you fought off an alien invasion of Earth, much like Independence Day. Had a lot of kind of transmedia inclusion of radios and television, of fighting for various cities around the world. And then Operation Jumpgate is you find a way to go across the solar system and fight the aliens on their own turf. With, again, as much 90s cheesy full motion video as you can stand. But I really liked it. Civilization 4, I really wanted the Civilization to be up there. I love the Civilization games. And 4, I think, is my favorite. TIE Fighter is my Star Wars representative here instead of KOTOR. It was my favorite Star Wars space combat game. They made a bunch of those back in the day. TIE Fighter, X-Wing, TIE Fighter versus X-Wing, all sorts of the games. But TIE Fighter was my favorite. And I think it's probably the only piece of Star Wars media still that treats the Empire as a serious concept and why people would ever fight for the Empire versus just kind of mustache twirling evil that doesn't make a ton of sense. Wing Commander 3 we talked about. That's kind of the pinnacle of the Kilrathi War. Wing Commander was a very popular series back in the day. Eternal Darkness we talked about last week.
Yeah.
Which is a Resident Evil-esque survival horror game in which you ultimately start fighting the old ones of kind of Cthulhu mythos or Lovecraftian mythos. Space Quest 4, I really wanted a Sierra game to be on here. The Quest games were very formative for me. Space Quest 4 is the one where you travel through time and go through various different space quests that don't exist in order to solve a problem. And that was my favorite. That's an adventure game. Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis is what was between this and Secret of Monkey Island for me from the LucasArts old school games. This is my favorite of the LucasArts games. Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, I would argue, is better than at least the last 2 Indiana Jones movies. Age of Wonders 3 goes back to kind of the strategy game side of things. But if you like high fantasy and magic and strategy, it's my favorite ever. Prey, Ains talked about, but Prey, I think, is probably a little bit under the radar as one of the best kind of immersive sim shooter games of all time, especially with Moon Crash. Yep. And then Mission Critical, I gotta believe, is an adventure game that no one has heard of at this point in 2023. That, again, features a lot of full motion video, this time starring Michael Dorn, who those of you might remember as Worf from The Next Generation, and has a plot line that I'm not going to ruin even this many years later that is still with me today that I love to death. So my list is basically things that I think people should know more about and that are representative of things that I love the most about video games, because I didn't think that I needed to tell anybody that Super Mario World is awesome. And that's not to take away from either Travis or anything else, but that was my thought process in making the list.
Yeah, I like that our lists say, favorite games of all time, and Hogue's list says simply Hogue in all caps at the top.
It should have an ED at the end.
Yeah.
Hogued.
I mean, look, that's not false advertising. That is that. If you were like, what is this list? Even if you removed the title and you made me guess, I would have been like, this list is Hogue.
It's Hogue. Yeah. By the way, shout out to Space Quest. I'm kind of shocked that I forgot to put a King's Quest or Space Quest game on mine.
I love King's Quest.
formed a lot of my youth. One of the first games I ever played was King's Quest 1, which I've told a funny story about before, but amazing games. Also,
I also liked the new King's Quest a couple of years ago. I thought that was a pretty damn good return.
Oh, it was
downloaded
fantastic.
it, never played it, but I heard it was good.
Oh, it's good, dude. And I love the episodic format that they did.
It was fantastic. And I sent an email to the makers of that game because me and my daughter were having such a fun time with it. And they sent the nicest note back.
Nice.
I always loved that.
Yeah,
very cool. I would also point out, I was kind of going while we were all talking, the only game on all 3 lists is Witcher 3.
Yep.
Like we share a bunch of 2 of us have a bunch of different games, but the only one on all 3 is Witcher. So
yeah. Hogue went rogue. He was doing the assignment, and then he got to like 4, and he was like, you know what?
Well, top 5 is my top 5, right? Like that's the one that I always tell people. And then it was, what do I want to share?
Yeah, the top 5, top 10 is a lot easier. Once you get to 25, there's so many interchangeable games. Like I moved in and out. There's so many other ones I could mention. We do have a late super chat here. Actually, we have 2. We have a super sticker. So Console Peasant, €5.99 super sticker with a Shiba Inu, I believe, saying number 1. Console Peasant, thank you. Appreciate the support. And then Sid follows up with 100 rupees, says, just a fun follow. What's a new genre or game type you recently got into?
Ooh, that's a great question. How recent? Because I would say VR is kind of recent for me. It's the last couple of years I've started to get into VR games.
Yeah, that would be me too.
Good genre game type. God, I play everything, man. I feel like it's a point of pride for me that I try to play every single type of game.
I think you're looking at 3 people, Sid, that play a lot of different genres to begin with, right?
Romance Sim for Ains. That's a great one for you.
I did play Romancevania.
Yeah, you start playing a romance sim, a dating sim.
I'm deeply into cooking and time management games right now.
Okay.
Nice. And that's he's not even talking about games right now. He's just talking about his life. Really into cooking and time management.
What was that family cooking game that came out a few weeks back on Game Pass?
The Indian one?
Yeah.
It's like making a bunch
supposed to be very good.
Yeah, my fiance's playing it, so she likes it.
Heibu or something. It's a word I don't recognize.
Yeah, I didn't know if you played that one, but one to think about. So, all right, gents, I think that is going to go ahead and wrap us up for the day. I think on terms of what's coming on the SG side, so like I said, my Phantom Liberty review is up. There are no spoilers either in the video nor the written review, so you can feel free to check that out. In fact, I would encourage you to check it out. Helps us out, of course. Cast Co-op, me, Joe, and Luke did finally record after 9 weeks. We went back and looked. 9-week hiatus. We are back. That show is up on SG channel as well. You can check that out. Just a lot of conversation, honestly, about just a bunch of games. We were trying to catch up on a bunch of things together. And then a bunch more reviews coming. I'm actually starting a new review this week, which I'm super pumped for. I can't say it yet. And then we will... Yeah, you guys know what it is. But we will have Assassin's Creed Mirage. And, there's a bunch of games obviously into October that are going to be big. So we'll be covering all those.
Do you have to say it like you're introing Aladdin?
Mirage. Every time.
Hogue, what you got, man?
Yeah, one thing I wanted to note for folks is I won't be here next week. I've got another meeting that conflicts with this, but it'll be a pretty exciting announcement, I think, when I can talk about it afterwards. So I'll mention that when I get done. The other thing I wanted to tell folks is that if you want more of my thoughts on Alan Wake, I did a spoiler cast with the Last Stand Media crew.
Nice.
And that's available, I think, on their side of things. I think it's paywalled still. It might come out of the paywall at some point. I'm not in charge over there. But if you want to hear that, you can hear, I think, 2.5 hours of me waxing philosophic about why Alan Wake, in particular, its writing is so great. So I'm over there doing that. We're doing Hangouts and Headlines every week now, and virtual legalities pop up from time to time. So if you're interested in those things, follow me on Twitter or X and on YouTube at hoeglaw, and you can see all the stuff I'm doing.
When you're talking about the game is the only time that Alan Wake's writing is great is a true sentence.
Yes, well, Alan Wake as a fictional writer is not a good writer. That's
what I'm saying. Yeah, I know. This is funny. Yeah, Alan Wake's writing is great, and then you see Alan Wake getting all excited. Yeah, you see Alan, we getting all excited. Did somebody say my writing's great? We're like, no, we're talking about the game. Alan, sit down. We're not talking about your writing.
No, I make that point on the spoiler cast. So there you go. You can check that out, Travis.
It's kind of amazing.
We're 1 month away, by the way. 1 month.
I am so excited. I'm probably not going to review it. But anyway. What am I working on?
Isn't that good that you're not going to review it? Isn't it better?
That's true.
Play it on your own?
True. Yeah, I get to play it on my own. But I'm very excited for that game. My next review is The Lords of the Fallen.
Yes.
2. I'm getting
Don't you start.
I think I'm getting a code early this week or middle of this week, and I'm just going to run through it. So that'll be a while. I assume the embargo is not going to be until second week of October or something like that. Maybe even later, because I think it comes out mid-October.
Probably day or two before release, probably.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So it's going to be a way, but that's what I'm going to be busy with. And then in the meantime, I've got 2 previews I still can't talk about, which is unfortunate. And then I've been on some shows. I was on the Iron Lords show this week to talk about game reviews and how they work and why you shouldn't be mad about other people's scores. And then that's it. I'm working on stuff, but a lot of it I can't talk about right now.
Cool. And we'll talk more.
Good times.
We will talk more next week when we're able to talk about more things. Hogue is out next week. Dan is back next week. So we'll be a trio again. We might have a guest. We'll see. But either way, we will be back in the same time and place as always. Chat, you've been awesome today. Thank you so much. Appreciate all of you guys hanging out with us as always, as do we, the audio listeners who are catching up with us later. Like I said, a lot of follow-up viewers lately. Like our metrics on people watching the show later after it's live are higher than they have been maybe ever. So really cool to see. Thank you for that. And just appreciate it. So for then, Hogue, we will see you in 2 weeks. Chat, we will see you next week. Hope everyone has a great week of gaming. Enjoy Phantom Liberty. It's awesome. I'll say it again. And we will see you then. Peace.